The carriage rolled across the broad plain, wine stirring the curtains. Lin Chuan watched the horizon and asked, curious, "So, Yanzi, what did your divine test turn out to be?" Duguyan didn't hide the answer. Her voice was soft. "I drew the Earth God's 9 tests. Before I can begin the trials, I have to find an Earth temple. The order will guide me to its exact location." "Well, at least it isn't some terribly old-fashioned name," Lin Chuan said dryly. "Do you know where the temple is?" Duguyan shook her head. "Not yet. The Earth God's order will lead me. It's pointing south." "That's better than nothing," Lin Chuan replied, relaxing a little. He felt a flash of unease, though. The goddess of life's trials and now the Earth Gods, there was a good chance the 2 test sites wouldn't be in the same place. He couldn't split himself. If he stayed with one, the other would be alone. From what he'd seen of Duguyan and Yelingling, either could end up in trouble. Duguyan laughed, reading his thought. "Don't worry, Xiaochuan. Follow Lingling. I can handle myself. My order is strong. It's not just a relic, it's a spirit guide with 4 abilities: Earth armor for defense, gravity field for control, Earth power to boost strength, and Earth shaking for attack." She spoke with the confidence of someone who had practiced with her token until she'd mastered its use. Hearing the list of abilities, both Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling felt more at ease. Lin Chuan couldn't help thinking how big a loss it was for the Tiando Empire. Such a potent guide, rivaling the Hanhai Qiankun cover, had been misjudged and lost. He wondered how Emperor Shuye would react if he learned of it. "For now, let's decide to stick together," Lin Chuan said. "Once we find the Earth Temple, we'll see. If it looks dangerous, we'll come up with another plan. I don't like leaving either of you alone." "All right, Xiaochuan," Du Guyan said, smiling. Lin Chuan returned the smile and felt the warmth in his chest. 2 strong horses pulled the carriage. Yerong had arranged for a senior family member to act as coachman and drive them south. They followed the official road past Jialing Pass, edging closer to the Empire's border. The Earth God's order kept pointing south, which suggested the temple lay outside the Tiando Empire, likely in Xingluo. "We'll be getting close to Wuhan City if we go that way," the Ye family coachman warned. "We should make a slight detour." "Good idea," Lin Chuan agreed. The coachman veered southwest. For the most part, they avoided any encounters with Wuhan Hall, and after several days, they crossed the border into Xingluo territory. Lin Chuan kept a low profile, no noble badge on the carriage, so they wouldn't attract undue attention. Bandits appeared a few times on the road. Lin Chuan didn't intervene. He let Du Guyan take the lead in those fights so she could gain experience. The girl showed no hesitation, though at first her strikes were a little fierce. She quickly settled into the grim work. With Lin Chuan present, he could sense the bandits' inner states, malice, greed, ugliness, and saw no reason to feel pity. The order in Du Guyan's hand glowed brighter the longer they traveled. After a week on the road, the horses were close to exhausted. "There's a town ahead," the coachman said. "Should we stop? The beasts need rest." "Take a break," Lin Chuan said. The carriage rolled into the town and stopped at the gate. The place was larger than the small villages they'd passed, lively and busy. People's eyes followed them as they stepped down. They found a modest tavern near the entrance and went inside. Lin Chuan pushed the door and called, "Excuse me, anyone here?" A young woman appeared at the counter. She looked them over, and on seeing their clothes, registered surprise before forcing a welcoming smile. "Who do you need?" "We're just travelers passing through," Lin Chuan said. "We're tired and hungry. We'd like to rest and have a bite." "Oh, passing guests," she said, brightening. "Come in then. I'll prepare food. You can put the horses in the backyard. There's special hay." Her openness was almost naive. Lin Chuan hesitated for a second at the sincerity he sensed. "Thank you," he said, and the 3 of them followed her into the courtyard. The Ye family stable hand led the horses out back, while Lin Chuan motioned him to sit with them. Soon the girl brought out steaming dishes and a jar of wine, vegetables, meat, a simple, hearty spread. Lin Chuan reached for his storage soul guide to pay, but the tavern girl waved him off and smiled. "No need. My grandfather turns 70 next week. It's fate you passed by. We should celebrate. Consider yourselves guests at his birthday." "We can't accept that," Lin Chuan began, but she shook her head. "No, really. If you feel bad, at least drink and tell me how the food tastes." Against his better judgment, Lin Chuan and the others accepted. The first mouthful surprised them. Every dish was delicious, and the wine had an unexpected depth of flavor. Dugu Yan's eyes lit up. "This is excellent. Did you brew this yourself?" The girl's face brightened with pride. "Yes, my martial soul is rice. My innate soul power is only half a level. No real talent to be a soul master, so I inherited the family's winemaking. I brew everything myself." Lin Chuan nodded, understanding. Food-type martial souls often made better-tasting food even without soul rings. The same principle applied to tools and craft. The wine's quality was the proof. "It feels wrong to have such good food for free," Dugu Yan protested lightly. "You're my guests," the girl said. "Consider it a blessing for my grandfather's long life." They ate. After a while, the three travelers and the tavern keeper's granddaughter had settled into easy conversation. The girl perched near Dugu Yan, eyes bright with curiosity. "Are you really soul masters?" she asked. "Yes," Dugu Yan said with a smile. "Oh," her face lit up. "I wanted to become a soul master, but I don't have the talent. Sister Yan, what's it like being a soul master? Is it hard?" Dugu Yan obliged. She had time, and she told the girl about cultivation, about how soul masters trained, the dangers and the freedoms. The girl listened raptly, occasionally gasping or exclaiming. Her voice was light and innocent, like a bell, and Lin Chuan felt a warm, contented bubble of peace listening to them. Time slipped by. Lin Chuan dozed for a moment and woke with a start. "Yanzi, Lingling, it's getting late. We should move on." When Dugu Yan put it that way, the girl's expression sank. "You're leaving so soon? Sister Yan, stay a few more days and come to my grandfather's birthday, please?" Dugu Yan shook her head apologetically. "We can't. We're on an urgent journey. We'll have to press on." The girl's disappointment was clear, but she recovered quickly and waved. "If you pass this way again, come visit. I'll treat you properly then." Dugu Yan softened. "We'll try. If we return, we'll definitely come. At least be careful on the road. Sister Yan, Sister Lingling, Brother Lin," the girl said, offering a small, earnest bow. They returned her courtesy. The carriage drew up, curtains lifted, and as they pulled away, the girl lingered at the tavern doorway, a thin figure against the town's bustle. "She's a really sweet girl," Lin Chuan said, watching her grow smaller in the rear view. Dugu Yan nodded, smiling. "Cute and innocent. I haven't met anyone like her in a long time. I almost want to take her as a sister." "You could always bring her back to the Tiando Empire," Lin Chuan teased. "Our territory's huge. Surely it can fit 3 or 4 more people." Dugu Yan laughed, then shook her head. "We'd have to ask her. And besides, our test comes first. Let's focus on that for now." "Agreed," Lin Chuan said. They let the town fall behind them and the road ahead take them toward the south and whatever the Earth God's order would reveal. Chapter 143. The Cat Being Hunted. For Lin Chuan and his companions, their detour through the small town had been nothing more than a brief episode. 2 days after leaving, they reached a mountain range. According to Dugu Yan, the Earth Temple should be hidden somewhere in these peaks. Before they could begin searching, a dull boom split the stillness of the wilderness. Birds erupted from the treetops in a flurry and fled into the sky. The sound carried far. Lin Chuan's senses snapped to attention. Dugu Yan's face went cold at once. He didn't need to tell Lin Chuan anything. The movement had been unmistakable. Lin Chuan's eyes flashed red as he scanned the area, and the situation resolved itself in an instant. Then his expression changed to one of puzzlement. "Someone's being hunted," he said, "and it's an old acquaintance." Dugu Yan and Ye Lingling froze. Dugu Yan's mind raced. Could it be the people we ran into at the elite competition? Yeah, they're coming this way. Before Lin Chuan had finished, a black shadow leapt from the trees. Several others followed, closing fast. The leader shouted, "You can't escape, surrender and come with us." There was no answer. The fleeing figure had seen Lin Chuan and the others with a glance. She froze, clenched her teeth, and then raced toward them instead. The leader snarled, "Stubborn!" and condensed a ball of purple-black energy, hurling it forward. The girl felt the pressure from behind, but didn't stop. She took the hit, coughed blood, and collapsed at Lin Chuan's feet. "Help! Help!" she managed before losing consciousness. "That's Zhuzu King?" Dugu Yan recognized her despite her battered state. Lin Chuan had watched her reaction, and he wasn't surprised. He sighed. "It's an unexpected disaster." He pointed toward the attackers. They're coming for her. Duguyan's jaw tightened. Yellow-green light gathered around her as she moved. Earth body armor, she declared. The Earth God's order flew from her hand and flared into 5 dull brown lights that resolved into energy armors, dropping onto Duguyan and several others. Lingling, Duguyan called. Yi Lingling didn't wait. She released her martial spirit to bolster the defense. The incoming assault smashed against the armor with a thunderous explosion, but the combined protection held. Lin Chuan and the rest were unhurt. The leader, seeing his strike fail and recognizing the forms of Duguyan's ground dragon and Ye Lingling's 9-heart begonia, realized they weren't ordinary roadblocks. When he noticed Lin Chuan standing nearby, his face went ashen. "Hold on, this is a misunderstanding," he blurted. "Too late for talk," Duguyan snapped. Her hands never paused. The attackers weren't very strong. The most powerful among them was only a Soul King, and the Ye family's Soul Emperor had already engaged him. With Duguyan's martial soul, the Earth God's order, and Ye Lingling's support, the 10 black-clad assailants were quickly pressed back. Even without counting the Ye family's direct involvement, Duguyan alone was enough to overwhelm most of them. Still, Lin Chuan found the whole setup odd. This group was too weak to be on a proper manhunt for a Soul Lord. Were they incompetent or holding something back? The leader, now on the defensive, barked, "Retreat," and tried to slip away. "No leaving." Lin Chuan's voice was cold. He summoned the Luoxia bow. They couldn't be allowed to escape with knowledge of this place. Even if Duguyan could have finished them, slipping enemies away would risk their trail being followed. He launched the simplest ammunition, soul power arrows, no flashy techniques. The projectiles cut the air and struck true. One by one, the black-clad men fell. In the blink of an eye, all 10 were dead. "Lingling, heal her," Lin Chuan ordered, pointing to the motionless girl. "On it." Ye Lingling's spirit of life rose before her in a soft, fragrant breeze. Emerald light gathered into petal-like motes that drifted down and fused with Juju King's wounds. The black and purple corruption that had marked her injuries faded. Within moments, Juju King twitched, then opened her eyes. She sprang upright like a cat with its fur on end, scanning the scene warily. When she saw the 10 corpses, relief washed over her face. "Thank you for saving me," she said, her tone cold but sincere. Duguyan blinked in surprise. "You're from Shrek Academy, right? How did you end up in the Xingluo Empire being hunted by these people?" Juju Qing clenched her fists. Lin Chuan answered instead. "They're from the Xingluo Ju family. The Xingluo Empire has a tradition. Any prince who awakens the White Tiger martial spirit is paired in a marriage contract with a woman of the Ju family who awakens the Nether Spirit Cat. They duel later. The winner takes the throne. The loser usually dies." Duguyan and Ye Lingling stared, horrified. "They do that?" Duguyan asked flatly. Juju Qing laughed once, bitterly. "If I had lost, I'd accept it. But that Dai Mubai, he didn't even fight. When Zhu Zhuyun and Davis came, he ran off. This is the second time he's done this." Lin Chuan found himself at a loss for words. It wasn't hard to see why Juju Qing had been abandoned. When survival is at stake, people will selfishly protect themselves. Duguyan scoffed. "He's no man." Ye Lingling's expression was equal parts pity and anger. "Couldn't the teachers at Shrek Academy intervene?" Duguyan pressed. "Even in the Tiando Empire, didn't they speak up for you?" Juju Qing's face darkened. "It's a matter of the Xingluo family and the Empire. No one wants to offend the Xingluo Empire over this. They forced me back to the Royal Academy. I escaped not long ago. If I hadn't run into you, I'd have been caught again." Lin Chuan couldn't help but smile faintly. "You didn't truly escape on your own. Someone must have let you go." Juju Qing stared at him, incredulous. "Who would do that? I had been taken, then they let me go. Why would they hunt me down afterward?" "Who knows?" Lin Chuan shrugged. He didn't want to dig into politics. "For now, you're safe. Get out of here. Leave far away. You won't be so lucky next time." Those words should have ended it. Juju Qing had every chance to run, but instead she surprised them all. She sank to one knee in front of Lin Chuan. "I won't run," she said, head bowed but voice steady. "I don't want to die. Teach me to get stronger. Take me in. Make me your blade. If you command, I will obey without question." Her resolve was fierce. Lin Chuan's mouth twitched. "Why should I train you?" Juju King snapped her head up. "Because I'll be useful. I will be your sword, your instrument. Just say the word and I'll do it." Her determination struck a familiar chord in Lin Chuan. He grinned. "What if I decide to let you die now?" The moment those words left his mouth, Juju Qing's martial spirit surged. Her claws flashed. They grabbed at the white jade at his throat. Lin Chuan reacted instinctively, catching her wrist. Her claws sliced his skin and drew blood. A thin line of red appeared where the edge had nicked him. If she had plunged another inch, she might have reached his carotid. Yi Lingling stood poised to act. Juju Qing's eyes burned with defiant intensity. Lin Chuan held her gaze a heartbeat longer, then let go. "You're something else," he said. "You passed." He released her wrist. The girl didn't collapse. Instead, she steadied herself, breathing hard, proud and raw. Lin Chuan looked at her anew. She might not be the most talented, but she was tenacious. She'd put herself through hardship and never surrendered. That stubborn, ruthless will was valuable. At the very least, he didn't dislike her. "Get up," he said. "We'll see what we can do." The sun shone over the mountains. There was one more person in the group now, but it didn't slow them down. The men in black from Xingluo City had all been killed, their bodies burned by Lin Chuan, so that even if the Xingluo Ju family suspected something, they would find no trail. Juju Qing wondered why Lin Chuan and the others had appeared in the Star Luo Empire, but she kept her curiosity to herself. There were more important things to worry about. The mountains around them were alive with color and sound. Lin Chuan peered into the dense jungle and asked softly, "Yanzi, how far are we?" Duguyan pressed the Earth God's order to her chest. It was growing warmer and seemed to hum with direction. "We're close. I can feel it. Closer to the Earth Temple." "Then let's go." Lin Chuan nodded and followed her. They walked until the path suddenly broke away. A yawning, bottomless chasm opened before them. Wind screamed between the cliffs, and the sound was like some great beast roaring from the depths. Lin Chuan stopped cold. "There's no path," he said. Duguyan looked equally surprised. After hesitating, she pointed toward the chasm. "The Earth God's order points down there." No sooner had she spoken than a wave of terrible air rose from the abyss, forming a storm that rushed toward them. Juju King, standing closest to the edge, was almost swept off her feet. "If you're weak, step back and stop getting in the way," someone snapped, only for a hand to shoot out and grab Juju King, hauling her safely away from the brink. Breathless and shaking, she wiped sweat from her brow and forced out, "Thanks." Lin Chuan scanned the scene. Steep cliffs ringed them on all sides. There was no obvious way down except to jump or fly. But the howling winds funneling through the peaks would make flight precarious. Too weak, and you'd be sucked into ruin. He turned to Duguyan. "What do we do?" Duguyan frowned. She had thought the Earth Temple might present trials to test those who sought it. This wind could be one of them, a screen to weed out the faint-hearted. But there had to be another way in. Then Lin Chuan's eyes lit with an idea. "Wait, doesn't the Earth God's order form a gravity field? Can you weaken gravity?" Duguyan's face brightened. "I can try." She released the order. It hovered above her head and shed an earthy yellow light. Immediately everyone felt lighter, as if invisible hands were lifting them. Lin Chuan experimented. He gave himself a small leap and rose 5 or 6 feet, then drifted down like a falling leaf, the landing gentle and shockless. "It works," Duguyan said, surprised and pleased. "I can even reverse or reduce gravity." "How much soul power does it use?" Lin Chuan asked. Duguyan studied her own energies. "If I only nullify my own gravity, about 10% of my soul power will last 2 hours. But the more and heavier the objects I affect, the more it costs. Consumption increases rapidly." "That'll do." Lin Chuan was unconcerned. Ye Lingling could speed up soul recovery, and Lin Chuan himself had more than enough recovery pills on hand. The bigger risk was the wind in the abyss. "I'll handle resistance to the wind. Yanzi, you concentrate on keeping the ground with us light and steady." Duguyan nodded. It was the only reliable plan. After a short rest, Lin Chuan handed her a few chi recovery pills. "Stand by. We'll start soon." At Lin Chuan's signal, Ye Lingling's twin swords flashed. With a hard, fast motion, she carved a ring on the ground. A circle of slashing marks lay around them, and as Lin Chuan had planned, the small patch of earth beneath their feet began to lift as Duguyan extended the order's gravity field to include it. The chunk of ground floated, suspending them as Duguyan guided it toward the abyss. How's the drain? Lin Chuan asked. Duguyan smiled, breath steady. Not bad, it should hold for 3 or 4 hours. Then fall, Lin Chuan said. Lingling, boost her recovery as much as you can. Ye Lingling lifted both hands. The spirit of life flared and a green glow washed over Duguyan, strengthening and renewing her. The earth platform drifted downward. At first, the descent was slow and controlled. Then, from far below, a sudden gust erupted and tore at them. Lin Chuan snorted, and a blue field leapt out from him, wrapping the group and the floating soil. The wind slammed into it and made ripples, but it could not break them. Keep going, Lin Chuan ordered. Duguyan steered harder. The wind thickened into a storm the lower they went, and Lin Chuan had to throw everything he had into maintaining the field from the water of all things to resist the assault. Minutes stretched, then the hurricane began to abate. We've passed the wind zone, Lin Chuan said, voice tired but calm. We should be close to the bottom. Soon the ground came into view. They landed smoothly, and Duguyan collapsed onto her knees, sweating and breathing hard. Lin Chuan, less strained now, began to look around. The bottom was bleak and empty. No plants, no animals, nothing living within his perception. It felt hollow, as if the place was waiting. A stone forest rose up ahead. Lin Chuan pointed. Yanzi, that must be the entrance to the Earth Temple. Duguyan examined the area more carefully and nodded. Yes, the order leads there, but I'm not sure it's that exact stone formation. They hurried to the stone forest. Up close, 6 tall stone pillars stood in a ring, paired and closely spaced, enclosing a cracked, patterned patch of earth. The fractures seemed chaotic until one looked for a hidden design. As they approached, the Earth God's order over Duguyan flared and reached toward the dark motifs carved into the nearest pillar. The patterns brightened, spreading along the stone and into the ground. You were right, Duguyan breathed. This is the entrance. Then, let's go in. Lin Chuan stepped forward first. One by one, they moved between the pillars. The order rose into the air, spun at the center of the circle, and shone with a brilliant earthen light. The 6 pillars glowed, the cracks in the soil ignited, and for a moment everything was a searing white. The light swallowed them. When it faded, Lin Chuan opened his eyes into a new place. No sunlight fell here. Above them, a red rock ceiling loomed, and stone pillars rose from the floor, each bathed in a soft glow. The air was cool and still. Is everyone all right? Lin Chuan asked. They all nodded, taking in the unfamiliar underground hall. We must be beneath the surface, Duguyan said. The stone forest acted as an entrance into this underground palace. It reacted to the Earth God's order. A disciple from Yi's group, who had been a step behind, pointed ahead with a start. Marquise Lin, look, over there! In the dim, cavernous space, a massive temple stood, solemn and heavy. Even at a distance, it radiated a gravity that made the hair on their arms stand up. Duguyan's eyes shone. The Earth Temple. We found it. Lin Chuan allowed himself a small smile. After the long journey, they had finally reached the site of the divine test. Let's go. They quickened their pace toward the temple, but no more than 6 paces from its entrance, the ground trembled. Stone groaned and cracked. From the earth itself, a colossal stone guardian erupted. An enormous golem of rock, towering and blocking the way. Its movements shook the chamber as it roared a sound like thunder and took a menacing step toward them. Chapter 145, Respective Assessment Levels. Why is there a stone giant here? Duguyan stopped in her tracks, eyes narrowing. Lin Chuan glanced up slowly. It's a guardian of the temple. They don't make entry easy. Calling it a living creature wasn't quite accurate. Lin Chuan's soul sense detected no life force, just a body of rock with a huge core at its center, emanating energy. The thing had the look of a statue, but that core made it more than mere masonry. A roar split the air, echoing through the underground hall. The stone giant swung a mountain-sized fist toward Lin Chuan and the others, the gust it generated stinging like sand. I just like doing theatrical things, Lin Chuan muttered, helpless but calm. He had no intention of intervening. If this guardian was meant to screen entrance, the test should be taken by each person. If they couldn't even get past this, there would be no point complaining about the godly trials beyond. Get out of the way, Duguyan cried, darting aside with the others. The fist slammed into the ground with a thunderous boom, gouging a deep pit and sending stones and gravel scattering. One by one, the group released their soul abilities, shattering the debris around them. Duguyan's confidence only grew. Yanzi, this should be a pre-entry test to the temple. You'll have to do it yourself, Lin Chuan advised. Duguyan grinned. Don't worry, just watch. He's all bulk and no finesse. He can't stop me. A flood of earth and light rolled over her, enveloping her in a golden yellow aura. Earth power, she intoned, and then, first soul skill, green phosphor, red poison. Her face flushed, she blurred into motion, a streak of shadow and light charging for the temple. She didn't plan to destroy the Guardian, only to bypass it and enter the temple. The stone giant roared again and raised its fist once more. The Earth God order flared from Lin Chuan in response, a gravity field that pinned the giant in place. Its stone legs buckled as if rooted, its movements slowed to a crawl. Its eyes glowed red, but the fist, hampered by the artificial weight, fell harmlessly. Even with the wide sweep of the attack, Duguyan dodged effortlessly and slipped into the temple. Too easy, she called back from within the threshold. Lin Chuan watched her. The stone giant relaxed, its red gaze dimming, and then it sank back into the ground until it was indistinguishable from the floor. You guys should try too, he said. There may be quotas in the assessment. Juju King hesitated, confused by the sudden formality. The Ye family disciple, however, was suddenly eager. As an insider, he understood these things. Thank you, Marquise Lin. I'll go first. He dashed forward. Lin Chuan, sir, what did you mean by the assessment just now? Juju King asked, still unsettled by the title. Lin Chuan waved it off. He appreciated her curiosity and gave a concise explanation. Have you heard the legend of becoming a god at level 100? Juju King's eyes brightened. Is that true? Could it be this Earth Temple was left by the gods? This palace is called the Earth Temple, Lin Chuan said. It's a testing ground left by the Earth God. If you win his approval, you can earn qualifications to take further trials. He glanced at Duguyan. Yanzi has already passed the 9 tests of the Earth God. She could inherit the Earth God's position if she chose. Others can't inherit the Earth God, but they can still qualify for lower-level divine tests. The rewards are generous, soul power increases, extended life of the soul ring. If you pass a divine assessment, you can gain those benefits. Juju King's eyes glittered. Power, more soul force, a longer-lived soul ring. This was exactly what she had been seeking. May I try? She asked eagerly. Lin Chuan's expression cooled a little. You're still too weak. You aren't even fully qualified as a swordsman. Focus on getting stronger first. You're right. Thank you, Brother Chuan. Her gratitude was sincere. Don't call me sir. Call me Brother Chuan, he said, relaxing. Now go on. Give it your best. Juju King launched herself into the air, activating her first soul skill, Netherworld Thrust. She surged forward like a wraith, closing distance in a flash. At the last moment, she used the skill again, accelerating beyond the stone giant's reach. The giant swung, but its vast palm only fanned her. As an agility-type spirit master, she would have been badly hurt if struck. Instead, she ignited a burst of black and purple energy, threaded through the giant's fingers, and drilled forward. With a few more accelerations, she slipped silently into the temple, hair mussed by the palm wind, but unhurt. She stowed her martial spirit and turned to Duguyan with a grin. Come on, Lingling, let's see what's inside. Lin Chuan looped an arm around Ye Lingling's slender waist, and with a push of his legs, vanished across the last stretch in an instant. Before the stone giant could even react, he and Ye Lingling stood inside the temple. Juju King's surprised face turned to astonishment. The Guardian's red gleam faded, and it quietly sank back into the earth, becoming part of the floor once more. The trio moved forward into the temple. A massive stone pillar dominated the chamber. The instant they passed it, the pillar began to glow. A brown shaft of light crawled along its veins and then fell like a column over Juju King. The girls stood dazed as the light shifted, brown to white, then to yellow, then purple, accelerating through hues until it settled into a dark purple. 3 slashes of purple lightning flickered down, condensed into 2 veils of light, and then pierced her eyebrows like tiny meteors. Small purple marks, fashioned from twin stones, appeared on Juju King's forehead. That's the purple level assessment, Lin Chuan murmured. But it's on the lower side, a 3rd level purple. You haven't absorbed the Narcissus jade muscle and bone, so your talent is weaker than before. It makes sense you wouldn't reach the black level yet. Juju King's features betrayed both disappointment and determination. Lin Chuan shook his head gently. It's not a hard limit. If you work hard and win recognition, your test level can evolve. Yanzi, your turn, Lin Chuan said. You've already got qualification for the 9th test, but you should activate it here. Duguyan stepped to the pillar. The brown light bloomed and wrapped around her, but it did not cycle through colors. Instead, the beam intensified until it split into 9 successive veils. The first was dazzling, the others were dimmer. The curtains fell like meteors and embedded themselves into her brows. Duguyan opened her eyes, orange light flared and a dark token mark appeared on her smooth, pale forehead, a miniature replica of the Earth God Order, the 9 tests of the Earth God. Only those recognized by the Earth God's order could be eligible for all 9 tests. Others could at best be granted the lower tiers. Luck and talent both matter, Lin Chuan said, watching her. He looked then at the Yi family disciple by his side. Although the man's strength had reached Soul Emperor, he was over 40, an age that made rare talents uncertain. Still, Lin Chuan encouraged him to try. Yes, Lord Lin. The man's face flushed with anticipation as he approached the pillar. For a long moment, nothing happened. The pillar remained inert. The man's hopeful expression froze. Lin Chuan scratched his cheek awkwardly, ready to apologize, when the pillar finally responded. The brown light flared, flowed into white, and the test registered, a white-level assessment, the lowest possible. It was little more than a consolation prize, but it was something. Any prize was better than coming away empty-handed. Duguyan tilted her head and grinned at Lin Chuan. Brother Chuan, do you want to have a go? Lin Chuan started, then smiled and nodded. Since we came this far, let's try. Chapter 146. Does God lick me too? Lin Chuan stepped up to the stone pillar. A familiar brown beam of light wrapped around him, then shifted through a cascade of colors, white, yellow, purple, black, before settling into a brilliant crystal red that engulfed him completely. The red light flowed over him, then faded, and 8 thin curtains of crimson slipped into his forehead one by one, forming a strange red mark shaped like a cluster of peaks. The top 8 exams are fine, but the content of this divine test. Lin Chuan trailed off, frowning. The assignment was to follow and assist the inheritor of the goddess of life. That made no sense. This was supposed to be the Earth God's test. Why was he being asked to help the successor of a different deity? Is this licking? Lin Chuan muttered under his breath. Somewhere in the divine realm, the Earth God had been watching the tests unfold in the Earth Temple. The moment Lin Chuan's thoughts slipped out came just as the deity's attention landed on him. A single phrase sent the Earth God's expression darkening with irritation. What do you mean by licking? He snarled. The Earth God had a bad temper. He'd wanted to violate the rules of the God realm and personally interfere with Douluo Continent to teach Lin Chuan a lesson. But upon considering the goddess of life's power invested in Lin Chuan, he decided against it. Besides, if he made a scene, God Shura would certainly come knocking, and the Earth God had no desire for trouble with that particular deity. This is noted. You'd better come to the God realm someday, kid. I'll settle this grudge and show you what real trouble is. With that, he withdrew his gaze. Out of sight, out of mind. Lin Chuan had no idea he'd earned the ire of a first-rank god. In any case, even though the test's content was odd, he would have helped Ye Lingling regardless. By the way, he asked, turning to the others, what's the first test for you, Yanzichi? Juju King answered first. Mine is to cross the rocky forest without being hit more than 20 times. The time limit is 1 year. Duguyan chimed in. Mine's the same. Cross the rocky forest with fewer than 20 hits in 1 year. That stone forest sounds dangerous. Lin Chuan rubbed his chin. If Ye Lingling could stay and had the life spirit armor, safety wouldn't be a problem. But Ye Lingling also had tests to complete. It's fine, Xiao Chuan, Duguyan said. With the earth protective armor here, we shouldn't worry about safety. I'm the one worried about Lingling, Lin Chuan admitted. Duguyan understood and quickly added, by the way, Xiao Chuan, what's your first test? My first test is to help Lingling complete her assessment. Duguyan blinked in disbelief. Isn't this the Earth God's testing ground? Why are you being asked to help Lingling? Who knows? Lin Chuan shrugged. Maybe because I've been blessed by the goddess of life, or the earth god thought I was favored by her. He must have decided I was the one to assist Lingling. If that's the case, Yanzi, Lingling, and I probably won't be able to stay in the Earth Temple. Duguyan sounded prepared, not disappointed. It's okay. The Earth Temple is isolated underground. No one comes here. I plan to stay and complete a few more tests. Don't worry about me. That's thoughtful, but just in case, take these. Lin Chuan waved his hand. Dozens of jade bottles materialized at their feet, each labeled. They contained healing elixirs, soul-restoring potions, pills to accelerate soul power recovery, and a specially refined Bigu pill. All the bottles have their names and functions written on them, he explained. We'll leave you some dry rations too, but they'll only last a month. Once you run out, take a Bigu pill. One pill suppresses hunger for 10 days. If you use up both food and pills, you'll have to hunt for yourself. Duguyan's eyes shone with gratitude. Juju King watched the scene with a small, private envy. She wished someone would be so careful with her. Unfortunately, she'd met someone who only knew how to run away. All right, Xiao Chuan, I'll be all right. Duguyan smiled. We'll finish the assessment as fast as we can and come back for you, Lin Chuan said. He planned not to linger. Ye Lingling's tests were the priority. Just then, Lin Chuan remembered the Ye family disciple who had come with them. I almost forgot. What about your test? The Ye disciple gave a sheepish smile. It's done. When? Everyone looked surprised. The disciple pointed toward the temple entrance. While Marquise Lin and the others were talking, my test was to repair the temple gate. Light bloomed around him. A white halo rose from his body, and a strange triangular sigil floated up and imprinted itself on his back. Lin Chuan felt the surrounding stone walls shimmer, the energy of heaven and earth pouring into the Ye disciple like a tide and integrating with his being. So that's the reward for passing? Lin Chuan murmured. It draws the energy of heaven and earth into the body to increase soul power, like fast meditation but without side effects. The white light faded after the length of half an incense stick. The Ye disciple smiled, amazed. My soul power has increased by 1 level. Duguyan and Juju King's eyes lit up. Even a lowly white-level assessment could raise soul power. What might the higher purple-level tests or the 9th Earth God exam grant? Lin Chuan, however, corrected gently. More precisely, you've increased by about half a level. It still saves me months of work, the Ye disciple said, slightly disappointed that he'd only qualified for the first white-level reward. All right, with your test finished, let's go. They said brief farewells, and under Duguyan and Juju King's watch, Lin Chuan, Ye Lingling, and the Ye disciple left the temple. A flash of white light swallowed them, and they vanished into the underground palace. When the light was gone, Duguyan turned to Juju King and smiled warmly. I thought I'd be alone for the divine exams, but you're here. It's nice to have someone to talk to. He offered his hand. Let's be friends, Duguyan, from now on. Ju King, she replied, taking his hand. You can call me Yanzi. Duguyan's grin widened. Let's go. Our first test is the same. We'll head to the stone forest together. Hand in hand, they stepped into the white light. Lin Chuan and the others reappeared in the abyss of the stone forest. Marquise Lin, how do we get out? Someone asked. Without Duguyan, they couldn't reverse the descent the way they'd come. It's simple. Lin Chuan walked to a nearby pillar, placed his palm on it, and poured in soul power. The pillar glowed, and the ground around them burst with light. A brown halo rose up, buoying them as their bodies grew light and lifted into the air. The gravity field embedded in the forest, activated by those qualified for the test, propelled them upward at great speed. An hour later, they were back in the mountains and forests above. Lin Chuan glanced down at the abyss behind them. Lingling, let's go. Yi Lingling nodded and squeezed his hand. They followed the path back to the carriage parked at the mountain's base and set off at speed. Marquise Lin, where do we go next? The coachman asked. Lin Chuan hesitated, then looked at Ye Lingling. Lingling, where is your assessment place? She answered in a soft voice. The direction kept changing during the previous trip. It's not exact, but it seems likely to be in the Star Forest. Star Forest? Lin Chuan's face tightened. His mind leapt to the Lake of Life, deep in the Star Forest, the domain of dangerous beasts, where the Silver Dragon King was recuperating. If the goddess of life's assessment site was near the lake of life, that would be a serious problem. Even wounded, the Silver Dragon King was more powerful than a peerless Douluo and could be operating at a godlike level. Dealing with the surrounding predators alone would be nearly impossible. Yi Lingling saw his reaction and asked softly, "Brother Chuan, are you all right?" Lin Chuan forced a smile and shook his head. "I'm fine. Let's head to the Star Forest now." He gave the Ye disciple the destination and tightened his grip on the reins. For now, they could only take it one step at a time. Chapter 147. Where is my mother? Tiando Empire, Haoqian Sect. After more than a month of recuperation, Tang San had finally recovered enough to be up and about. His injuries, however, were far from fully healed. His right arm and leg were still gone. Even beneath his clothes, his right sleeve and trouser leg hung empty. The one good thing was that he'd learned to use crutches skillfully. With them and his ghost shadow tracking technique, his speed wasn't greatly reduced by his disability. He slowly extended his left hand, and the Haotian hammer appeared out of thin air. But it was not the familiar, flawless weapon he remembered. A large, jagged hole rifted the hammerhead, and a web of cracks fanned out from it, as if the whole thing might crumble at any moment. Tang San's face fell. "Damn," he muttered. So he was right. A martial spirit can't repair itself after being damaged. My Haotian hammer, it's useless now. He'd known it in the back of his mind, but seeing the ruined hammer made it unbearable. He'd seen what a top-tier hammer could do back in Spirit City. Now, with his own spirit weapon fractured, he regretted the path he'd taken, practicing blue-silver grass earlier instead of strengthening his hammer. But that was hindsight. The damage was done. His injuries had been healed, but his spirit weapon had been critically injured. He could feel the loss of its former edge like a wound inside him. With a deep breath, Tang San drew the damaged hammer into his body as a black light. "I wonder if Master has any way to repair my hammer," he whispered. The Haoqian sect had few records on spirit repair. The only hope he had was his teacher, the one he called Master. He couldn't give up on the Haoqian hammer so easily. Anger flared up hot and ugly when his thoughts turned to Lin Chuan. "If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be like this," Tang San swore silently. The hatred made his features hard, and the vow of revenge settled in his bones. The Tang family never forgot a kindness or neglected revenge. He would repay Lin Chuan double once he recovered, and he wouldn't spare any of Lin Chuan's associates. Footsteps sounded outside the door, pulling him back to the present. Tang San smoothed his expression before the door was pushed open. "Xiao San, you're finally up." "Uncle." Tang San greeted, genuine respect in his voice. In the past month, Tang Xiao had cared for him like family, protecting him. He felt more than duty. He felt kinship. "We're family. No need for formalities," Tang Xiao said with a small laugh. He closed the door carefully, sat by Tang San, and asked in a low voice, "How are you feeling?" "Thanks to you finding rare medicine, my wounds have mostly healed," Tang San answered. Tang Xiao brightened. "Good. In that case, I plan to take you to Holy Soul Village to pay respects to your mother and retrieve the 100,000-year soul bone she left for you. Your mother's original body was blue-silver grass. Her soul bone may help restore your missing limb." Tang San's hand went to his empty right sleeve. He nodded solemnly. "I'll go with you, Uncle. Then we'll leave now. We should move quickly." As Tang San stood, remembering his crutches, another thought came to him. He lowered his voice. "Uncle, I want to take Father's body with me." "Why?" Tang Xiao asked, puzzled. "I want to bury Father with Mother. I think that's what they would have wanted. Besides, the sect may oppose Father's burial in the sect cemetery. I don't want to cause you trouble." Tang Xiao's expression shifted. His voice tightened. "Xiao San, your father was my brother. He's as much a member of the Haoqian sect as any of us. He has the right to be buried in the sect cemetery, and I'll insist on it if anyone objects. Do you trust me?" Tang San shook his head slowly. "I trust you, Uncle, but I think Father would rather rest with Mother. Even if we can get his body into the sect cemetery, they will never admit Mother there. Maybe Holy Soul Village is the best place. Please, help me make it happen." There was a long, heavy silence. Tang Xiao finally let out a small, helpless sigh. "All right, if that's what you want, I'll do it. Perhaps, as you say, Brother Hao would rather be buried with Ah Yin than with the sect." Relief flooded Tang San. Thank you, uncle. Tang Xiao nodded. He had in fact prepared an ice coffin in advance to keep Tang Hao's body from decaying during the delay caused by the sect's opposition. They placed the coffin in the Soul Guide and set out from the Hao Tian sect. After several days of travel, the uncle and nephew reached Holy Soul Village. Tang Xiao surveyed the simple village, a shadow crossing his eyes as he thought of what Tang San and his family had endured. Tang San's expression hardened. Uncle, let's go find Mother's tomb first, he said, voice low. Seeing the familiar landscape stirred memories of his father and a helpless, choking sorrow welling up inside him. He pushed it down and forced himself forward. Tang Xiao understood, and together they made their way to the hillside behind the village. Tang Hao had described the general features before he died, so they searched until Tang Xiao found what he was looking for. A waterfall. This must be it, he said, and motioned Tang San closer. Holding Tang San by the shoulder with one hand and gripping the Hao Tian hammer tightly with the other, Tang Xiao leapt straight into the waterfall. A surge of soul power cut the curtain of water, forcing it to flow upward and revealing a cave entrance. They hurried inside. Light spread through the cave and they saw the mound, but Tang Xiao's gaze swept the place and he found no trace of blue-silver grass. Tang San's heart sank. No, she should be here, Tang San whispered. Wait. Tang Xiao went to the mound and knelt. The ground around it showed many footprints, a little blurred but still identifiable. The mound itself bore clear signs of disturbance. Tang Xiao's face darkened. Someone came before us and took your mother away, he said quietly. Tang San went pale. They even took the blue-silver grass? He felt numb with fury. Check for the soul bones. Tang Xiao snapped, thinking quickly. Brother Hao left your mother's soul bone here. Find it. They searched every inch of rock, earth, and the mound itself. Nothing. No trace of the soul bone. 100,000-year soul bone gone. The two men stood in stunned silence. Such a relic was priceless. Ordinary soul bones were rare enough, but 100,000-year soul bone could ignite a bloodbath. Yet it had vanished. No ordinary villager could have got in here, Tang Xiao said. Even the waterfall can't be passed by someone without soul power. Whoever took her had to be a soul master, someone with enough strength to enter this place. Then what do we do? Tang San's voice trembled. Tang Xiao thought for a moment and then looked up, resolve forming. We have to go to the village. Find out if any powerful soul masters have been here in the past year or two. If not, we'll widen the search. Check nearby villages as well. We can't lose your mother's soul bone or her remains. Tang San's fingers tightened until they whitened. Whoever took my mother's body and soul bone, no matter who you are, I'll make you pay. They left the cave and slipped back toward the village. Tang San's hatred burned like a coal in his chest. Meanwhile, in a carriage some distance away, Lin Chuan sneezed suddenly. Once, twice, 3 times in a row. Brother Chuan, are you all right? Ye Lingling asked with concern. Lin Chuan waved it off with a smile. I'm fine. Just some bad qi. Probably a rat cursing me from behind. That's all they can do. The carriage slowed, and a soft knock sounded on the side. Marquise Lin, we've arrived at Stardew Forest. Ah, finally, Lin Chuan said, exchanging a pleased look with Ye Lingling. Chapter 148, Attack and Defense Change. Let's go. Lin Chuan took Ye Lingling's hand and stepped down from the carriage. The air here tasted clean and wild. The scent of grass and distant wood filled their lungs. Finally, Lin Chuan exhaled, smiling faintly. Thanks for coming this far with me. It could get dangerous from here. You should return to Shuiyuan City and tell Aunt Ye that we're safe. Okay, Lord Lin, miss, please be careful. The Yi family disciple knew his limits. Staying would only be a liability, so he did not argue. He nodded and urged the carriage away. Lin Chuan watched it disappear, then turned to Ye Lingling. Lingling, we'll go in together. The Star Forest is full of hazards. Stay close to me. Ye Lingling returned his look and nodded. All right, Brother Chuan. I can sense the direction. They joined hands and stepped into the Star Forest. The growth here was tangled and oppressive. Vines that snagged at ankles, thorns that tore at clothes, and thick trunks that blocked sightlines. Deeper in, the scenery repeated itself so that it was easy to get lost. Many soul masters perished here each year, either lost or stumbling into the wrong territory, and Lin Chuan kept one hand on Ye Lingling and the other on his long knife. With broad, efficient sweeps, he cut a path through the undergrowth, his blade cleanly shearing the thorns aside without slowing their progress. They passed the outer ring and moved into the mixed zone, where stronger auras hung in the air and thunderous roars echoed from time to time. Suddenly, a monkey-like spirit beast lunged out. Lin Chuan flicked his blade. The wind screamed, and the creature's cry was cut off as a deep gash opened across its chest, bone visible beneath torn flesh. It stared at him with a flash of human-like fear and scrambled away. Lin Chuan did not give chase. The beast escaped, spared by his mercy. "There are more and more 10,000-year beasts," Lin Chuan observed. "How much farther?" Yilingling shook her head. "Deeper." His expression hardened. The deeper they went, the more the spirit beast's ages rose. 10,000 years was the minimum now, and in the true core of the forest there were many well beyond 50,000 years. It was dangerous ground. Yilingling suggested, "Should we turn back and get Grandpa's help?" "No," Lin Chuan said, shaking his head. "We're already here. Let's scout ahead and see. As long as there isn't a beast tide, we should be fine. Just be careful." He wanted to protect Yilingling. That was why he kept their distance small and his breath subdued as they pushed forward. After some time, the aura thickened until even the faint traces were of 10,000-year quality. The real bad news settled on him. The God Test land had to be even deeper. In the vast Stardew Great Forest, the only place that matched their information was the Lake of Life. Lin Chuan's shoulders tightened. If the God Test land was at the Lake of Life, getting in without drawing attention would be difficult. The Silver Dragon King was said to be recuperating there, and other powerful beasts clustered nearby. A direct assault wouldn't just be reckless, it would be impossible. "I can only take it one step at a time," he thought. Hopefully the situation isn't too bad. The Silver Dragon King was badly injured and rarely moved. The Azure Bull Python lives in the lake as well. Perhaps they could approach from the lake's edge and avoid engaging the major beasts directly. If that failed, they'd find another way. For now, the priority was not to disturb whatever led the beasts. That's the 1,000-tiny Ant King. They had spotted 3 of them. That told Lin Chuan they were not far from the Lake of Life's core. A grim look crossed his face. Last time in the Stardew Great Forest, he'd had an unpleasant encounter. There had been the Titan Giant Ape and the Azure Bull Python, and they'd nearly torn him to pieces. He had only escaped by holding Xiaowu hostage. If they met again, it might not end peacefully. "Lingling, there may be 100,000-year spirit beast ahead. Don't stay far from me. If anything happens, I'll get you out immediately," he said seriously. "I know, Brother Chuan," Yilingling replied, trying to keep calm as she tightened her grip. As they approached the lake's edge, the life energy in the air grew denser, humming with power. By the water, a young figure sat cross-legged, eyes closed, absorbing the lake's energy with practiced intent. It was Xiaowu, meditating and drawing in the realm's nourishing qi. A sudden ripple cut across the lake, and a massive shadow rose from the clear water. The Azure Bull Python poked its head out, its bull-sized skull more than 15 feet across, lantern-like eyes shining with intelligence. The movement startled Xiaowu out of her concentration. "Daming," she scolded, frowning. "I'm practicing. Do you have to scare your sister to death?" "I'm sorry, Sister Xiaowu," the python rumbled, "but there are humans coming." "Humans?" Xiaowu's eyes snapped open. Anyone bold enough to approach this place was powerful. If they were titled Douluo, the situation would be dangerous. "How many? How strong?" she asked. The Azure Bull Python's nostrils flared. "2. Very weak, but familiar. One smells like the human I met outside last time." Xiaowu's face went blank for a beat, then recognition sparked in her eyes. "Xiaochuan, the boy who held me hostage?" "It should be him," Daming confirmed. 2 breaths billowed from its nostrils. "He actually came all the way to the Lake of Life. Last time he used Sister Xiaowu to threaten us and escaped. I won't let him go this time." "Wait, Daming," Xiaowu began, alarmed. Before she could finish, Daming's thick tail smashed the water with a thunderous slap. Using the recoil, it launched itself from the lake and vanished in a black streak toward the shore. "Damn it, listen to me," Xiaowu snapped, leaping to her feet and sprinting after it. If she had been a moment slower, she would have been too late. Lin Chuan felt the sudden, fierce breath approaching and stopped. Lingling, Use your martial soul to protect yourself, he ordered, releasing her hand. Shadows flashed as he drew his twin blades, the Night Shadow pair, and surged forward. A huge sky-blue bull python materialized a few paces before him, its elongated body and enormous head declaring its identity. "Humans, how dare you come here? Don't think you'll leave alive," it roared, and a green, oppressive aura exploded outward like a pressure wave. Lin Chuan's reply was a cold snort. Water coalesced around his blades, and as he slashed, the liquid coalesced into a scorching fire. The two blades crossed in a blinding display of steam and light. "Water and fire slash," he called, the attack compressing the elements into a single, explosive technique. The azure bull python bared its fangs and opened its maw, releasing a ring of emerald light toward him. For a moment, its eyes flashed with cruelty. Then they went flat as it saw the approaching blade. The green light struck the flame-wreathed slash with a thunderous impact. A cloud of fog boiled up, hiding man and beast. When the dust cleared with a hiss, Lin Chuan stepped out and landed lightly. The python lay on the ground some distance away, its flanks hewn by two long, bloody gouges. Blood poured from the wounds. The azure bull python's roar tunneled with pain. "Impossible. You're not even a titled Douluo. How could you injure me?" Rage and astonishment warred in its massive eyes. It had launched a full-strength counter and still been cut. The pace of human cultivation was terrifying indeed. "I came here for something important. I don't want to fight," Lin Chuan said calmly, feeling the python's rising killing intent. "Stand down. You only got lucky. Do you think you can beat me? You are not even a soul Douluo. Leave now, or die," the python bellowed, emerald light coiling around it like armor. Lin Chuan let out a small, humorless laugh. "If you won't yield, then I'll knock you down and move on." The python bristled, fury cresting. Circles of green energy pulsed around its body. "You are shameless," it spat. "Then fight." Its intent was clear. With the Titan giant ape absent, it wanted to settle scores by eliminating Lin Chuan now. "Daming, stop!" A sharp voice cut through the tension. Chapter 149. Just a superficial injury. A crisp shout came from behind. The azure bull python's condensed aura immediately stalled, and a figure tumbled down from a tree. "Ha! Good thing I caught up!" Xiao Wu let out a relieved breath when she saw that Lin Chuan and the azure bull python weren't fighting. Once she'd recovered, she planted her feet and scolded in an annoyed tone. "Daming, I told you to wait. Why were you in such a hurry?" She probably shouldn't have said that. The bull's spirit sank further. "Sister Xiao Wu, I'm the one who got hurt." "How could that be? You're 100,000-year soul beast. How could Xiao?" Xiao Wu stopped mid-sentence as her eyes landed on two terrible scars across the bull's body. Her eyes widened. "Daming, are you all right?" The bull's great head shook slightly. "It's nothing serious, just superficial wounds." Good guy, Lin Chuan thought wryly, barely suppressing a smile. Only he knew how deep his knives had cut. He'd actually seen bone. Superficial, he mused. Men were stubborn, and apparently male soul beasts were the same. "Are you sure that's nothing serious?" Xiao Wu asked, still shocked. "It doesn't matter," the bull, Tianqing Numang, replied, shaking his head and deliberately changing the subject. "Sister Xiao Wu, this human is strange. His power increased too quickly, and he knows our location. If we don't deal with him, he'll attack us sooner or later." As a 100,000-year-old soul beast, Tianqing Numang had wisdom rivaling humans and understood the temptation such an ancient soul beast presented. Xiao Wu glanced at Lin Chuan with sudden curiosity. A few years ago, the boy had been only slightly stronger than she was, yet he'd managed to injure a 100,000-year Tianqing Numang. Incredible. "Long time no see, Xiao Wu," Lin Chuan greeted softly. He had no intention of fighting when she appeared. Besides, after not seeing her for so long, the rabbit incarnation had grown more striking, especially her long legs and bright, clever eyes. He thought, not without amusement, that she truly looked the part of a rabbit spirit. "Xiao Chuan, did you come to hunt me in Daming?" Xiao Wu's heart jumped, her beautiful eyes fixed on Lin Chuan. Lin Chuan shook his head. "I used to be interested in spirit rings and spirit bones, but not anymore. I didn't come looking for you. I was just passing by." "So you really wanted to kill me?" Xiao Wu instantly leaped up, indignant, accusing with disbelief. She'd always thought of Lin Chuan as a friend. How could he want to kill her for her spirit bone? Lin Chuan shrugged casually. Anyone seeing the 100,000-year soul beast at his side would jump to that conclusion, surely. Besides, he had only thought about it. He hadn't acted on it. Xiao Wu, let's not argue. I'm here for the Lake of Life. I don't want to fight. Can you let us pass? Lin Chuan's voice was calm. The Lake of Life? Why do you want the Lake of Life? Xiao Wu asked, curious. Lin Chuan only looked at her quietly and declined to explain. She frowned in dissatisfaction. Can't you even say that? Don't be so direct. You have a favor to ask? Aren't you afraid I won't agree? I told you, whether you agree or not, I'm going in. It'll take just a little effort. After all this time, you still sound so irritating. Xiao Wu rolled her eyes, defeated but not truly willing to cause trouble. Regardless, she couldn't allow Lin Chuan and Daming to fight. She didn't want to see either of them injured or worse. After a moment's hesitation, she asked, finally, will you harm the Lake of Life? Lin Chuan shook his head slowly. No. Xiao Wu's expression softened at once. I believe you. As long as you don't destroy the Lake of Life, I can let you pass. Sister Xiao Wu! The bull's face changed. He opened his mouth to object, but Xiao Wu's look stopped him. He fell silent. All the same, Lin Chuan had achieved what he came for. He gave a slight nod to Ye Lingling, who stood not far behind, and the two of them walked past Xiao Wu and Tianqing Numang toward the Lake of Life. Watching their backs, the bull couldn't help murmuring, Sister Xiao Wu, they're human. Xiao Wu understood what he meant, but she only shook her head. Damning, Xiao Chuan is my friend. He already knows what I am. If he really meant to hurt me, I wouldn't have returned to the Stardew Great Forest alive. He might be using this to gain your trust, the bull countered stubbornly. Wait until he reaches level 90, then kill you and take your spirit ring and spirit bones. Xiao Wu shook her head decisively. Xiao Chuan wouldn't do that. Don't worry, Damning. Let's follow them and see what they're up to. With that, she bounded after them. The bull sighed, resigned, and crawled along to keep up and protect Xiao Wu. Lin Chuan's strength had exceeded their expectations. Everything would have to wait until the Titan giant ape who had gone hunting returned. Xiao Chuan, who is she? Xiao Wu suddenly stepped forward and regarded Ye Lingling with her bright eyes. Lin Chuan looked at Xiao Wu in mild surprise. The way she treated him with such casual familiarity, he had held her captive before, and yet she seemed to have moved on as if nothing had happened. What was this 100,000-year rogue rabbit thinking? She's Ye Lingling, and this is Xiao Wu, the 100,000-year soft-boned rabbit incarnation, Lin Chuan said after a moment. Ye Lingling blinked in surprise and stared at Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu flashed a sweet smile. My name's Xiao Wu, Wu as in dancing. I'm Xiao Chuan's friend. Nice to meet you. Ye Lingling hid her surprise and returned Xiao Wu's nod politely. After the introductions, Xiao Wu turned back to Lin Chuan and, in a softer voice, asked, Xiao Chuan, you can tell me now. What are you going to do at the Lake of Life? I can't tell you yet. You'll know when the time comes. You always like to leave us in suspense. Xiao Wu pouted, feigning annoyance, but not pressing further. In that odd, agreeable atmosphere, the party finally reached the Lake of Life. The air there was thick with the pulse of living energy. Both Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling's eyes lit up. Lingling, can you feel it? Lin Chuan asked quietly. Ye Lingling suppressed her excitement and nodded. Brother Chuan, this is it. I can sense it. The assessment site should be at the Lake of Life. Chapter 150. Finally. That's good, Ye Lingling said, and Lin Chuan breathed a visible sigh of relief. If the test site had been where the beasts gathered, he didn't know what they would have done. Let's go down and take a look. He took Ye Lingling's hand and dove into the Lake of Life. Instantly, a sheath of water swirled around them, isolating them from the rest of the lake as if sealing them in their own bubble. Damning, come down and look too, Xiao Wu called out, curious. The sky-blue bull python, Damning, would not let Xiao Wu go alone. It plunged in first, its body glowing green as it formed a transparent membrane over her head. The membrane kept her dry and drew oxygen from the water so she could breathe. Brother Chuan, over there, Ye Lingling said, pointing to the lower right. Lin Chuan nodded and pressed on, guiding them deeper. Sunlight soon faded, the water grew thick and heavy with darkness. A faint oppression settled over them. Ye Lingling's fingers tightened around his, and Lin Chuan patted the back of her hand, murmuring comfort. Don't be afraid, Lingling. I'm here. He opened his mouth and expelled a ribbon of golden flame into the water. The fire did not go out. It burned fiercely, throwing out a warm, steady light that pierced the murky depths. Yingling's fear melted away and turned into awe. Flames that burned underwater, it felt like a miracle to her. "Is it there?" Lin Chuan asked, steering by the glow. Using the golden light, they saw the bottom clearly. A dense growth of aquatic plants filled the area where Lin Chuan pointed, and at the center stood a forest like an island in the underwater plain. Yingling nodded. That must be it. Lin Chuan summoned the lake's subtle currents with the power of the water of all things. The flow answered him, sweeping them swiftly toward the forest. The sky-blue bull python and Xiao Wu arrived at the edge with them. Xiao Wu was staring at the little golden flame with her usual wonder. The python, however, watched the fire with wide, frightened eyes. As a soul beast that preferred shade and moisture, it was naturally resistant to fire, and yet this flame carried a deeper, more ominous threat. For a moment, Daming thought Lin Chuan far more dangerous than before. "There are forests under the Lake of Life? Why didn't you tell me?" Xiao Wu asked, looking around as if she'd discovered a secret world. "You didn't ask," Daming grumbled. Xiao Wu waved it off and hurried to Lin Chuan's side. "Xiao Chuan, is this the place you were looking for? Is there something special about that forest?" "You'll see," Lin Chuan said, but his answer was guarded. He knew what lay ahead. This was the trial site of the goddess of life. Soul beasts were barred by the rules of the god realm from becoming gods. At key ages, after 100,000 years of cultivation, they faced heavenly tribulations. Surviving allowed them to grow, failing meant death. Whether that restriction had been set by gods or by some other rule, he didn't know. But soul beasts had no fondness for humans, and gods even less. "How do we get in?" he murmured, searching for a way in. "Leave it to me," Yingling said. She bowed her head, palms together in a prayerful gesture. A soft light flowed from the mark on her forehead. Life breath surged out of her, stirring the lake itself. Plants leaned toward her, and the surrounding woods seemed to wake. Fluorescent green halos blossomed across the undergrowth. The bottom of the lake became drenched in a living, vibrant light. "It's beautiful," Xiao Wu breathed, eyes shining. Daming stared in astonishment. "How could humans attract this? This is the territory of soul beasts." Lin Chuan only watched, uneasy. The life energy was intensifying. Such a large disturbance might draw attention from the beasts of the great land of ferocity. He was right to worry. On the opposite side of the Lake of Life, the water rippled, and a purple glow opened like a slit. A pair of clear, vertical-pupiled eyes peered out. Not human. The creature's voice, barely a whisper, slid through the water. Such a concentration of life energy on this side of the lake. Could it be that the life trial has been triggered by humans? The creature had been watching the Lake of Life for some time and knew the location of the goddess's trial site. It depended on that pure life energy to recuperate, so it kept its distance. Revealing itself would bring danger from the god realm. The creature considered approaching. If the newcomers truly mastered the power of life and were willing to ally, its recovery might be greatly sped up. But the risk of exposure to the gods and the long wait it had already endured made it cautious. It's better to be patient, it decided. We've waited so long. Tens of thousands more won't matter. Besides, no one could fully master the power of life in a short time, even if they inherit the throne. Let them be. The dragon-like eyes closed and the lake calmed again. Lin Chuan stayed alert, but when the anticipated massive aura never appeared, he felt a quiet relief. Finally, without warning, white light enveloped Yingling and him. Xiao Wu, who had been bouncing with excitement, hefted herself and leapt toward them with all her weight. "Sister Xiao Wu!" the python cried. It had only time for a single shout before the three were swallowed by the dazzling light and vanished into the forest. The patch of lake they had stood on fell silent. Even the emerald glow in the trees faded back to normal. "Damn humans!" Daming howled, and its roar shook the water. The lake boiled with its soul power, whirlpools forming and surging toward the woods, but each wave smashed into an invisible barrier and dissolved as if blocked by some force. No matter how hard Daming tried, the barrier held. "What the hell is this?" it roared, panic rising. "How do I explain this to Erming?" The python blamed itself for letting Xiao Wu go with those humans. It had thought it was protecting her, but now she had been taken away. Since it could not force the barrier open and had no idea where Xiao Wu had been taken, all it could do was wait at the edge of the woods. If anything happened to her, it swore it would die alongside those human soul masters and take revenge. Inside the trial site, everything had a calm familiarity. Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling had both been through exams before and kept their composure. Only Xiao Wu looked around like a child in a fairy tale. Trees teemed with life and pulsed with energy. "Where are we? Xiao Chuan, did you know we'd come to some place like this?" she asked, wide-eyed. Lin Chuan didn't answer her first question. Instead, he asked, "Why did you follow me in?" Xiao Wu blinked and grinned. "If it's a place you'd risk fighting damning over, it's got to be powerful. I wanted to see." "Weren't you afraid I'd kill you for your soul ring and soul bone?" Lin Chuan asked, voice deadpan. Xiao Wu's smile faltered under his serious look. "But you said you weren't interested," she protested. Lin Chuan just stared at her as if she were naive. No wonder Xiao Wu's mother had trusted Bibi Dong and been betrayed. Gullibility ran in the family. He shook his head. A green light flared between Ye Lingling's brows. The forest trembled. From the earth, a magnificent palace rose, bathed in sacred light that filled the area. Even from a distance, the brilliance from its roof was blinding, and beneath all the life energy, there was a faint, supreme divinity that made Xiao Wu shrink behind Lin Chuan like a startled rabbit. "What is this place?" she whispered, trembling. "This is the place of the gods' test," Lin Chuan said plainly. "Lingling and I are here to face the trial." "God?" Xiao Wu's eyes widened with a mix of fear and fascination. "It's simple," Lin Chuan said. "If you pass the trials, you can become a god. You gain incredible power and endless life." "Really? Then can I take part?" she asked without hesitation. "I don't know. We'll find out when we go in." Lin Chuan gestured and began to walk toward the palace. Ye Lingling kept pace at his side, and Xiao Wu followed, bubbling with eager questions. Chapter 151. One test, two rewards. The unknown space was larger than any of them had imagined. There is an old saying that a mountain can seem like a world to a horse. Lin Chuan finally understood what that meant. He and his three companions had been walking most of the day before they reached the outer grounds of the Temple of Life. Along the way, they'd passed through a forest filled with unfamiliar flora and fauna, a tiny ecosystem of its own. The place made Lin Chuan increasingly certain they were no longer in the Douluo Plain. The god realm governed many plains, and Douluo Continent was only one of them. Perhaps this place had been set aside by the goddess of life as a testing ground for inheritors. "We're finally here. This palace is enormous," Xiao Wu complained as she knocked her legs together, then fell silent when she saw the complex ahead. Standing in the temple courtyard, they were struck by its magnificence. Even by area alone, the Temple of Life seemed at least twice as big as the Temple of Earth. A palpable breath of life washed over them as they stood before the gates. "Let's go in and take a look," Lin Chuan said. At that moment, the mark on Ye Lingling's forehead flared, and the great doors slowly opened as if in response. They followed the mark's pull into the plaza, where a tall statue rose at the center, a woman with long hair and a shawl, radiating a subtle life aura. Though fixed in stone, the figure felt tender and approachable, yet holy and untouchable. The statue's presence was conciliatory rather than imposing. "She's beautiful," Ye Lingling murmured, eyes shining. Lin Chuan nodded. Even a statue provided a sense of the goddess of life's charm, no less striking than the real thing. He could almost understand Wu Yazi's preference for a jade statue over a living person. "Xiao Chuan, can I take the test?" Xiao Wu snapped out of her reverie and asked eagerly. Lin Chuan pointed to a slightly shorter wooden pillar beside the statue. "See that pillar? That's probably the test medium. Go try it. If the goddess of life approves, you'll get qualified for the test." "Really? I'll try right away." Xiao Wu hurried to the pillar. Its surface was covered in intricate carvings and pulsed with a strange, invisible energy. Standing before it, she felt a reverent awe. "Do you think a soul beast can be approved?" Ye Lingling asked quietly as she watched Xiao Wu. Lin Chuan considered it. It should be possible. Xiao Wu's talent is strong. Some gods might refuse, but the goddess of life is closely tied to the ancient tree of life. She's of a similar origin to soul beasts and has a lenient nature. Even if Xiaowu is a soul beast, the chances are good. Besides, she may be transforming. If she reaches maturity, she could be recognized as human. No sooner had he finished than the pillar burst into green light. A column of verdant radiance descended from the sky and submerged Xiaowu completely. Success, Lin Chuan whispered, eyes gleaming. If a soul beast could be recognized here, it meant the god realm didn't categorically bar all soul beasts, only that it filtered them to prevent tragedies like the dragon god's rampage. Alternatively, Xiaowu might already be undergoing transformation into a human. Either way, the results suggested the God King wasn't especially hostile to soul beasts. The green light coalesced and imprinted itself on Xiaowu's brow. She opened her eyes, ecstatic. She had figured out the point of the test. Pass, and you could grow stronger, power enough to avenge her mother. Thank you, Xiao Chuan, she said sincerely. Lin Chuan waved it off. An idea struck him then. Maybe Shui Binger and the others should be gathered and sent to the sea god's trials. They were all water or ice-aligned soul masters. Sea God Island or a sea god assessment would suit them far better than the Temple of Life or Earth. Sea God Island didn't accept land soul masters as residents, but it wouldn't bar them from taking assessments, provided they weren't members of Wuhun Hall. Xiaowu connected with the mark to learn the specifics of her trial. I got black rank 6, she announced. The first test is to pass through the life forest we walked through earlier, under the pressure of the light of life. We have 1 year. That sounds too simple, she added, tilting her head. Lin Chuan's expression darkened. I hope you're right. Don't underestimate Sister Xiaowu, she scoffed, hands on her hips. I grew up in the Star Do Great Forest. Crossing a life forest is nothing to me. Emboldened, she looked at Lin Chuan. You should try for qualification too. Lin Chuan hesitated. He'd already passed the top 8 tests of the Earth Temple, and trying for the Life Temple's test as well felt greedy. What if the Goddess of Life disapproved and cast him out? Curiosity won out. He stepped up to the pillar. At first, nothing happened. The imagined column of green light didn't appear, and the wooden pillar remained unchanged. Lin Chuan scowled. It really won't work. Can't you be more generous? Unseen by them, the Goddess of Life, watching from the God realm, couldn't help but laugh at Lin Chuan's mutter. The little fellow had already been recognized by the Earth God, and yet he still wanted a test from her. She toyed with the idea of scolding him, perhaps even depriving him of the Earth God's reward, but she didn't seriously intend to be petty. He's a greedy little thing, she murmured, then relented. Still, since he's pleasing to the eye, a little favor won't hurt. The wooden pillar replied instantly. A small green orb of light rose and floated toward Lin Chuan, sinking into the mark on his brow. Lin Chuan blinked in surprise. As the new imprint settled, he could sense the test's parameters shifting. The content of the test itself hadn't changed, but the reward had expanded. Complete a trial, and you'd not only receive the usual reward, you'd also receive an additional reward from the Goddess of Life herself. He grinned. All right, I take back what I said. The Goddess of Life isn't just beautiful, she's the most generous goddess I've ever seen. The goddess heard his words and chuckled, a satisfied curve at the corner of her mouth. Cunning little fellow, she said to herself, but she felt strangely pleased. Chapter 152, The Liver is All That Matters. Brother Chuan, did you succeed? When a streak of green light brushed across Lin Chuan's forehead, Yinling and Xiaowu both assumed he had. Lin Chuan smiled and shook his head. Half successful. I didn't get the assessment from the Goddess of Life yet, but if I complete the assessment, there'll be another reward. That's still great. Yinling beamed for him. We don't have much time. Let's begin properly now. Xiaowu and Ye Lingling nodded, but as they turned to leave, Xiaowu stopped. She looked back in puzzlement. Why are you still standing there? Our tests are different. Only you will cross the forest of life. Ah! Xiaowu's face registered surprise, then indignation. So she was to go alone. Lin Chuan waved a hand with a smile. Do your best. Don't fail the first level. How embarrassing. Humph, who are you calling out? Watch Sister Xiaowu, she snapped, then swept out of the Temple of Life. Her long black hair swayed with each confident step, still full of life, befitting the incarnation of a soft-boned rabbit. Watching her go, Lin Chuan turned back to Ye Lingling. Ling, let's go. Okay. They walked to the courtyard behind the temple square. It was a small sanctuary, dense, flourishing plants and flowers everywhere, the air humming with vitality. The Earth's life force here was strong, ideal for plant soul cultivators. This place is perfect for life cultivation, Lin Chuan said. Let's begin. Lingling's second test in the 9 trials of life was to condense life energy within 3 years. The two found a patch of grass, sat cross-legged, and entered meditation. The courtyard amplified comprehension. Lin Chuan sank into the ocean of life like a dry sponge drinking rain. Compared to his previous breakthroughs with the yin-yang eyes, this felt different. Some mysteries were easier: water, fire, wind, thunder, while others, like space, time, and life, were deeper and more difficult. Still, even a first-level understanding of the life mystery would outstrip a second-level mastery of lesser elements. He closed his eyes, absorbed the living breath of the place, and waited patiently. The courtyard's bounty wasn't constant. Lin Chuan judged that the most potent hours came in the morning, lasting maybe 2 hours before ebbing. That made Lingling's test harder. She didn't have Lin Chuan's ability to sense heaven and earth directly, and relied on the life spirit for guidance. Condensing, storing, and using life energy on her own was a huge task. Days passed with little progress for her, and discouragement began to cloud her features. "Don't be disheartened," Lin Chuan said encouragingly. "The test allows 3 years because it's not easy. The harder it is now, the better the reward when you succeed. Take your time. There's still plenty of time. I'll find a way to help." Every evening, the three reunited and compared notes. Xiaowu curled her lip at Lingling's complaints. "Stop whining. You just sit and meditate. I have to cross the forest of life every day under the pressure of the light of life." "It's more than that," Xiaowu protested. "The creatures in the forest attack me on sight. I'd trade places if I could." Lin Chuan laughed. "Weren't you saying it was a piece of cake?" Xiaowu flushed but was defiant. "Don't underestimate me. This test is rough, but I'll take it. I'll pass the forest of life within a year." The training was grueling, but she discovered a strange advantage. Meditating while exhausted sped the development of soul power, and the temple space's energy was richer than the star forests, making it a prime place to cultivate. No matter how tired she got, she wouldn't quit. Time flowed differently for Lin Chuan, spending mornings on the life force, afternoons on sword, bow, and spear practice, and using meditation in lieu of sleep. Weeks of steady progress turned into months. Half a year slipped by. One hot afternoon, Lin Chuan sat leaning against a stone, the plants around him swaying faintly. He felt perfectly at one with the place. As he settled, the sensation of comprehension deepened, an internal confirmation that his understanding of the life force had increased. Then, without warning, a pulse of emerald light surged from him and spread across the courtyard. Lingling, meditating nearby, felt it instantly. She opened her eyes and glanced toward Lin Chuan. Was he successful? She didn't move to disturb him, but she did notice something else. The fluorescent green light seemed to accelerate her own cultivation. Her senses sharpened, her connection to life energy deepened. Half an hour later, Lin Chuan opened his eyes, a bright joy lighting them. "I finally broke through," he said. "The mystery of life. I've taken an important first step." "Did you condense life energy?" Lingling asked, standing and hurrying over. "Not quite," Lin Chuan said, smiling. "It's a further development in the law of life, but condensing life energy itself isn't out of reach anymore." He waved a hand and a faint breath of life drifted from him, falling onto the grass. Wherever it touched, vegetation shot up as if catalyzed, reaching waist-high in moments. "Wow!" Lingling's eyes shone. Lin Chuan's newfound mastery was clearly powerful, but still limited by his own strength. For now, it manifested as an auxiliary ability, boosting growth, restoring vitality, supporting others. In time, with deeper understanding, he might be able to influence living forms more profoundly, even heal or strengthen allies in battle. But for the present, this level of control was already valuable. "Brother Chuan, that green field, my life cultivation feels faster now," Lingling said, surprised. Lin Chuan's grin widened. "That's because I can now form a life field to assist cultivation. I didn't realize it would have such an obvious effect on you. From now on, I'll help you practice every morning." "I won't let you down," She clenched her small fist, determination burning bright. Relax. Take your time. You can do it. I believe in you. Lin Chuan reached out and smoothed her hair, gentleness rare and plain on his face. Talent mattered, but so did mindset. Confidence, he knew, could be the difference between stagnation and success. Chapter 153. Suspicion arises, guilt established God realm. Haha, this little one really succeeded. A beautiful, green-hued figure sat beneath the ancient tree, a trace of surprise in her eyes. As the goddess of life, whose body was the world tree itself, she was intimately attuned to the law of life. Even so, what she was seeing was extraordinary. When she had first awakened, she had not been this powerful. Only after countless years of cultivation had she risen to the rank of God King. Only she truly understood how arduous that path had been. In the vast God realm, she alone wielded the power of life. Many of her subordinate gods had merely brushed its surface. They were barely on par with the current Lin Chuan. That fact alone showed how astonishing Lin Chuan's talent was. This child is incredibly responsive to the laws. He has already grasped water and fire, and now life as well. His talent far exceeds mine, she murmured, watching the scene in the Temple of Life with a soft, admiring voice. To be honest, she now suspected Lin Chuan might not even be wholly human. His aptitude eclipsed that of many gods. Even she, the God King, felt a sliver of inadequacy. Only the dragon god of old might have surpassed him. I wonder if my choice back then was right. The thought of not having chosen such an exceptional successor crossed her mind briefly and brought a stab of regret. Yet that feeling passed quickly. Other gods might have been tormented by such regrets, but as a peaceful deity who avoided conflict, she did not dwell on it. Even if Lin Chuan never inherited the throne of the god of life, he would ascend into the heights of the god realm in time. That was not a loss for the world. Besides, Lin Chuan was already close to the rightful inheritor of the god of life. With his support, the 9 tests of life would not be an insurmountable obstacle. It seems I might be able to retire soon, she thought, a faint smile lifting the corners of her mouth as her gaze unconsciously shifted toward her chosen successor. While Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling practiced in the Temple of Life, things were also shifting far from the god realm. Phasno Province, the back mountain behind Holy Soul Village, Tang San and Tang Xiao stood before a cascading waterfall, faces grave. They had torn the mountain apart in search of the Blue-Silver Emperor, but found nothing, not the spirit beast, nor the legendary 100,000-year soul bone. After exhaustive searching, their efforts had turned up empty. Xiao-san, I'm sorry. I should have brought you here sooner, Tang Xiao said quietly, apology clear in his voice. Tang San's expression tightened, then he shook his head slowly. It's not your fault, uncle. I can only blame my luck. We've wasted too much time here. Why don't we return to the Haoqian sect for now? Your injuries have healed. You shouldn't fall behind in cultivation. Tang Xiao's tone had the finality of someone who had accepted reality. He had basically given up on finding the Blue-Silver Emperor. They had grilled everyone in Holy Soul Village, and it turned up nothing. Most of the Soul Masters who came through had been dispatched by the Spirit Hall to awaken spirits. Douluo Continent was vast, and finding an ordinary blue-silver grass was like searching for a needle in a haystack. They had been away a long time. It made sense to go back and regroup. Tang San fell silent for a long moment before answering, Uncle, I don't plan to go back to the Haoqian sect for the time being. Why? Tang Xiao asked, voice low. That comfortable life. It's not for me. No matter how much I train here, I can't avenge my parents. I plan to go out and train, Tang San said, conviction hardening his words. Tang Xiao paused, then fell quiet. The explanation was reasonable, and he had come to know Tang San's character over this time. Once the boy had decided on something, he would see it through. Relenting, Tang Xiao's expression deepened. Xiao-san, have you truly thought this through? Please help me, uncle. Tang San's eyes were steady. Looking into that determination, Tang Xiao could only nod. If that's your choice, I won't force you to return. But remember, no matter what happens, the Haoqian sect is your home. Tang San's eyes flickered with gratitude, and he nodded. If you're not coming back with me, at least let me be able to protect myself. Brother Hao has taught me the Chao's cloak hammer technique already. Now I'll teach you a unique Haoqian sect skill, Haoqian 9 Wonders. Watch closely, Xiao-san. Tang Xiao summoned the Haoqian hammer and began to display the Haoqian Nine Wonders. Gales whipped past as each technique unfolded in a blur of power. The air thrummed with a savage vibration. One move followed another, shattering the surroundings with overwhelming force. Tang San watched as if entranced, eyes wide, trying not to miss a single detail. In those moments, he re-experienced the terrifying might of the Haoqian hammer. After executing the sequence more than 10 times without pause, Tang Xiao finally halted. "Xiao-san, do you understand?" Tang San nodded. "Uncle, I've memorized it." "Memorizing isn't enough." Tang Xiao shook his head, reached out and wiped his hand along a spirit guide. An ancient manual materialized in his palm. "This is the cultivation method for Haotin Jujua. You should write it down." "Thank you, Uncle." Tang San accepted the book and began studying it immediately. 2 hours later, he had committed all its contents to memory. "Since you want to go out to train, there is a place you might find suitable. Your father went there once. It's extremely dangerous. Only go if you're prepared," Tang Xiao said, his tone grave. Tang San looked up. "Where?" "The City of Slaughter, a realm steeped in killing, a world some call hell. Few emerge alive, but those who do are reborn," Tang Xiao replied. Tang San considered the name for a moment, and then, without hesitation, said, "Uncle, I want to go." A sigh escaped Tang Xiao. He produced a scrap of tanned cowhide. "This is a map to the City of Slaughter, left by your father. Xiao San, be careful." "Thank you, Uncle. I understand." Tang San took the map but didn't examine it then. He slid it into his storage, 24 Bridges Moonlit Night, safeguarding it away. "Remember, if anything happens, return to the sect. The Haoqian sect will always stand behind you." After a few final instructions, the two parted. As leader of the Haoqian sect, Tang Xiao couldn't be absent for long. Though the sect was currently isolated and few outsiders visited, a leader disappearing during a crisis would be disastrous. A few months away was already all he could spare. Once Tang Xiao was gone, Tang San's expression clouded with conflict. "Uncle, did you really take it?" Before Tang Hao died, he had told Tang Xiao where the Blue-Silver Emperor was buried. The location was so hidden that no one could have stumbled upon it by accident. Yet Tang Xiao's behavior had been puzzling. He had taught Tang San the Haoqian techniques willingly and acted like a devoted elder. That closeness and apparent frankness only deepened Tang San's confusion. He did not know how to reconcile the man he had just seen with the possibility that Tang Xiao might have removed the Blue-Silver Emperor himself. He hoped it wasn't true. "You're the only family I have left," Tang San thought, almost pleading in his mind. But once suspicion takes root, guilt is easily presumed. Even if he kept silent now, the seed had been planted, and one day it might sprout into something terrible. Chapter 154. If it's not closed, it's open. 3 more months passed in the blink of an eye within the life realm. Under Lin Chuan's careful maintenance, the life breath inside the chamber buzzed with vitality. It swirled around Ye Lingling like a living mist, so dense it clung to the air. Ye Lingling closed her eyes and drew the energy inward, concentrating until her whole being trembled with effort. After countless failures, something inside her finally snapped into place, and a singular, extraordinary current of life burst forth from her. This is Lin Chuan, who had been sustaining the life realm from the side, raised an eyebrow in surprise. He poured his power into the life realm, bathing Ye Lingling in an even greater blessing. The breath of life coalesced into a roaring vortex that spun through the courtyard. At last, Ye Lingling completed her transformation. A strong aura of vitality radiated from her. At the same time, the red mark on her forehead flashed, and a soft, delicate voice rang in her mind. Successfully condensed life energy within 1 year. The second test of the 9 trials of life is complete. Evaluation: excellent. Reward: soul power increased by 2 levels. Soul ring cultivation increased by 1,000 years. Life affinity plus 5%. Ye Lingling leapt from level 56 to level 58 in one sweep. Nearby, Lin Chuan heard the same ceremonial voice, only his sounded deep and majestic. Assisted a companion perfectly. Reward: soul power increased by 1 level. Lin Chuan blinked. Really stingy, he thought. No wonder the life deity was only a minor god. Its rewards were paltry. Then, immediately, the voice spoke again, softer but unexpectedly generous. Extra reward: soul power increased by 2 levels. Now that was more like it. Before Lin Chuan could even react, The plants around the Temple of Life began to sway as if pulled by a current. They channeled the rich vitality of heaven and earth directly into him. Over the next stretch of time, he meditated and absorbed the influx. His soul power jumped rapidly, 4 levels by his own effort, from 65 up to 69. Then the deity's reward added 3 more levels, breaking him through the bottleneck in an instant. At that moment, the statue in the plaza of the Temple of Life flared. A green pillar of light shot up, and a bead of emerald descended to hover before Lin Chuan. A God-given soul ring? He reached out and took it. The bead shattered on contact, and the condensed energy immediately reformed into a ring that rose and hung above his head, dropping a faint, weighty pressure. Golden filaments crawled along Lin Chuan like living threads, and the ring began to flash through colors: white, yellow, purple, then black. Each phase sent waves of psychic shock against his defense platform. Lin Chuan stood unmoving. Even his face remained calm, as after countless collisions, the blackness finally shifted to a deep, blood-red halo that settled beside him. A surge of power flooded the surroundings. 100,000-year soul ring? Ye Lingling, newly transformed, watched the blood-red glow and felt her throat go dry. If she remembered correctly, the 7th soul ring should be 100,000 years. This put his cultivation on a level she could barely imagine. But the ring did not stop there. Its color deepened further, and the environmental tremors grew more intense. Lin Chuan remained steady. The life realm's green light mended his body, healing even the spiritual strain brought on by the ring's impact. The courtyard was silent. Ye Lingling had retreated outside, not wanting to disturb him. Even Xiaowu had come several times and stood in awe at the crimson halo. Lin Chuan sat in stillness for 15 days. Finally, a wave of soul power rippled outward. He exhaled, opened his eyes, and rose. Bones crackled as he stretched. Finally succeeded, he murmured. God-given soul rings are truly something. Hearing the movement, Ye Lingling pushed the doors open and rushed in. Seeing him intact, she let out a relieved laugh and smiled up at him. Brother Chuan, you're awake at last. Sorry to have worried you, Lingling. How long did it take to absorb the ring? He asked. 1/2 a month, she answered. 1/2 a month? Not bad. Lin Chuan breathed out slowly, a weight lifting from him. His strength had leapt dramatically. Brother Chuan, your 7th soul ring is 100,000 years old, right? Ye Lingling asked, eyes bright with curiosity. He smiled and shook his head. It's at the 100,000-year level, but not an ordinary one. It's closer to 200,000. 200,000? She gaped. What's your soul power now? Lin Chuan closed his eyes briefly to sense himself, then grinned. 79. Ye Lingling's mouth fell open. He'd broken into 9th level. The shock of jumping across levels was almost unbelievable. Lin Chuan quickly explained. It's not as crazy as it sounds. I was at 69 after meditation. The temple reward added 3 levels to 72. Absorbing the God-given ring increased me by 7 levels. That still sounds terrifying, she breathed. It is, Lin Chuan admitted, and he was pleased. Even without considering the jump in soul power, the 7th soul skill alone was fearsome. He focused and lifted his right hand. The newly appeared 7th soul ring responded, climbing and swelling until red light bled into the sky. His Luoxia bow manifested, its surface smudged with red-black hues that radiated terrifying momentum and made Ye Lingling flinch. This was Lin Chuan's 7th soul skill, Luoxia True Body. Unlike Tang Hao's Haoqian avatar, the martial spirit's size didn't change. Instead, the Luoxia True Body strengthened the bow itself. While active, every attack could be locked by mental power with no energy consumption. Power was increased by about 50%, and the effect lasted 30 minutes. In short, whenever he summoned the spirit avatar, he would gain 3 powerful buffs: guaranteed lock-on, a rampage-like power surge, and unlimited ammo for half an hour. Who could stand against this? Lin Chuan breathed, excitement flashing in his eyes. The combination of raw, cost-free power and mental lock was devastating. He already began to imagine the faces of future opponents. Of course, the avatar had a drawback. The 7th soul skill could only be used once a day. It was an explosive trump card. Then the Luoxia bow trembled as if in thought. Lin Chuan frowned at the feedback. You want to fuse the soul rings again? The bow wavered, as if protesting that simply eating an incoming soul ring deprived it of the chance to display the pre-battle deterrence of releasing rings. In the next instant, 6 additional rings of different colors, yellow, purple, violet, black, 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 and then his new red one, appeared behind him, each shining brilliantly. The bow seemed delighted at the chance to show off. "You can release rings?" Lin Chuan said with a rueful laugh. "If you'd told me earlier, you could have saved me some prestige opportunities." The Luoxiabo's tremor sounded like pride. Without waiting for more, Lin Chuan drew the 7 rings and one by one integrated them into the bow. Power sank into the weapon. The bow hummed with strength. A brief account of what he had become settled in his mind. Lin Chuan, soul power level 79, a 7-ring soul saint. His blessing from the Blue Star's will ensured that effort always yielded reward. He carried advanced meditation and guidance techniques, mastery in archery, spear, swordplay, boxing, and body skills. Skilled in alchemy and weapon forging. His soul skills included Exploding Arrow 5, Ice Arrow +5, Wind Arrowing, Rain +5, Thunder Arrow, Gold Gang Arrow +4, Soul Destroying Arrow +4, and the new 7th soul skill, Martial Soul True Body. He had also unlocked the first-level mysteries of life, water, and fire. The improvement far exceeded his expectations. The Temple of Life had been extraordinarily kind. "If I leave here without finishing every test, I should at least be able to break through to Soul Douluo," Lin Chuan thought aloud. Whether I'll get another God-given soul ring is another question, but that's for later. He already had ideas about future soul rings. The 7th was manageable, but the later ones required careful consideration. "Lingling, what's your 3rd test?" he asked. Ye Lingling closed her eyes and read the mark between her brows. After a moment, she opened them slowly. "I have to use life energy to purify the fallen creatures in the Forest of Life." "And you?" she asked him. "My test doesn't change. I'll assist you." "Then let's go see what these fallen creatures are," she said, nodding. They left the Temple of Life and entered the Forest of Life. Almost immediately, a delicate figure trembled toward them. She looked wretched. Beads of fine blood dotted her skin, making her presence eerie. The figure's soul ring flickered, and suddenly she teleported beside them in a flash of green light. Then the aura around her collapsed. She sagged to the ground, shoulders trembling, but her face shone with excitement. "How was it? I told you Xiao Wu could do it," the girl crowed. Lin Chuan looked at her as if she'd lost her mind. "So you just wanted to show off?" "It's proof, not showing off," Xiao Wu pouted defiantly. Lin Chuan's expression softened into pity. "Your first test's deadline was still 3 months away, right?" Xiao Wu nodded, proud. "Yes. Why?" "Under the pressure of the lifelight, your cultivation improves faster. Why end the assessment early? Wouldn't it be better to practice for the full 3 months?" I forgot," Xiao Wu admitted. Her confident smile froze and shame flushed her features. The impulsive streak in her bones had made her rush things, typical of a wild rogue 100,000-year spirit rabbit. "What can I do now?" She burst into frightened tears, not so much over failure as her own foolishness. Before Lin Chuan could comfort her, her brow mark flickered and the forest's life energy surged around her. Vitality poured into her, and her soul power rose to meet the test requirement. Lin Chuan shrugged. "Well, your first assessment is over. Don't be so impulsive next time. Use your head." "What is your second test?" she asked, pulling herself together. Xiao Wu consulted the mark between her brows. "Protect the fallen creatures from harm while the inheritor of the God of Life purifies them." Lin Chuan's eyes widened. "That's the same as Lingling's assessment." It made sense in hindsight. Both trials revolved around the sanctity of the forest and its creatures. With him there, Ye Lingling would be safe, so Xiao Wu's role seemed redundant. "Since your test is tied to Lingling's, we'll go together to the forest. Let's see what these fallen creatures are." Xiao Wu hesitated, then said, "When I wandered the forest earlier, many animals warned me not to go to the east part of the Forest of Life." "Really?" Lin Chuan thought for a moment. As a soul beast incarnation, Xiao Wu could understand animal speech and communicate with creatures, information that could be invaluable. "Then let's find a living creature and ask about it." They moved deeper, intent on finding answers, and whatever lay east in the Forest of Life. Chapter 155, Strange Creatures. The gray rabbit snatched the elixir from Lin Chuan's hand and hopped away into the undergrowth. So it's really to the east, and there should be a lot of them, he muttered. With Xiao Wu at his side, the three of them, Lin Chuan, Xiao Wu, and Ye Lingling, had learned some details from the rabbit about the so-called fallen creatures. They headed eastward. The deeper they went, the stranger the air felt. The lush trees and thick ferns shifted abruptly. Whole swathes of vegetation had gone pale and withered as if some invisible line cut the forest in two. Behind them lay an ocean of life. Ahead, a wasteland of decay. Is this really the same forest? Xiao Wu whispered, staring at the dying trees. As a soul beast, she felt the deadness like a chill under her fur. Brother Chuan, those must be the fallen creatures, right? Ye Lingling suddenly pointed into the dim woods. A grotesque shape pushed through the shadow, a misshapen thing wrapped in a black-purple mist. Its skin bubbled and pus-like, every step leaving scorched pits in the soil. Wherever it passed, the ground split and rotted. That's disgusting, Xiao Wu said, wrinkling her nose. Lin Chuan studied the creature. In looks, it matched the description, fallen through and through, but it didn't seem especially powerful. At most a great soul master, I think. I'll test it. He summoned the Luoxia bow without using any soul techniques, firing normal soul arrows. His bolts exploded through the thing's skull, continued on, and vanished into the trees. The headless body twitched, and to his surprise, a mass of black-purple mist rose from the ground and enveloped it. The severed neck writhed, and a new head regrew as if nothing had happened. Immortal? Or some core in its body? Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes and reached out with his mental power. He sensed an energy fluctuation concentrated in the creature's chest. Without another word, he loosed another arrow. It pierced through the chest and shattered the hidden core. The creature died instantly, and then its corpse ballooned and detonated. A thick spray of black-purple fog roared outward. Lin Chuan's body flared into living fire, creating a blazing shield between the fog and the two girls behind him. The three were unharmed, but the flora around them was not. Wherever the mist passed, leaves blackened and crumbled, flowers shriveled and branches snapped. The contrast between the healthy forest and this necrotic zone suddenly made sense. The fallen creatures were spreading death, like a plague. This is worse than the dark demon evil god tiger, Xiao Wu muttered, huddling close to Lin Chuan. It's like a contagion, Lin Chuan said. He thought of Ye Lingling's third test. She was supposed to purify these fallen creatures rather than kill them. Direct slaughter risked detonations that only made more fog. Lingling, try to condense your life energy and purify that mist. Ye Lingling nodded and forced her will inward. A soft green glow blossomed between her hands. It wasn't much, but the instant it appeared, the air seemed easier to breathe. Xiao Wu edged closer to the light as if drawn to it. Ye Lingling concentrated the energy outward. As it met the black-purple haze, the life force flared like an antidote. The mist recoiled and thinned. Even the shred vegetation began faintly to resprout. The effort drained Ye Lingling. She staggered and panted when she stopped. Are you all right? Lin Chuan asked, catching her and slipping some of his mysterious life energy into her. Since mastering the secrets of life, he carried a steady reserve he could share. I'm fine, just exhausted, she said shakily. The borrowed warmth helped her regain her balance. You could try using the life spirit tang as a medium, Lin Chuan suggested. It'll channel your martial soul and make the life energy more efficient. Ye Lingling's eyes lit up. She drew herself up and between her palms summoned a golden-green crabapple blossom, a life spirit tang. Life energy poured into the flower and it bloomed into a radiant orb. A gentle green life field spread from it. A life field, Lin Chuan murmured, fascinated. It was different from his own understanding of life's mystery. This was an innate manifestation of her martial soul, but it was potent. The field consumed less of her energy while still doing meaningful work. It works, Ye Lingling breathed. It's weaker, but it costs less. That's good. As you grow, you'll be able to form one without relying on a medium. For now, this will do. He glanced at the wide swath of withered forest. We won't be able to revive all that now. The test is to purify the fallen creatures, not to restore the whole forest. They pressed on into the blighted zone. Before they'd gone far, a dozen chaotic auras stirred, and a ring of the malformed things closed in around them, roaring. The smell alone made heads swim. Lingling, use it now, Lin Chuan urged. She set the life spirit tang between them. The green life field shot out, enveloping the creatures. Screeches of pain filled the air as the fallen beasts shuddered, their corrupt flesh melting like frost in sunlight. Some of them surged forward in panic. Xiao Wu, you too, hold them back, Lin Chuan said, taking the forefront. His arrows shot through the creatures' legs, toppling them. Without support, they crawled and scraped along the ground uselessly. Under the life field, they sloughed off their diseased skin, leaving only dense black cores that thudded to the earth. It's easier than I thought, Lin Chuan said, still watching the field. Xiao Wu, eager, darted forward at first but misjudged her approach. Where the black-purple mist touched her, patches of her fur and flesh began to take on the fallen creature's ill colors and postures. Gross, she cried and teleported back, heart pounding. The altered patches alarmed her. The remaining creatures closed in at once. You really know how to make trouble, Lin Chuan said, but his tone was amused rather than angry. With a few whistling arrows, he pinned the attacker's legs and the life field finished the rest. The corrupted cores remained on the ground. Lin Chuan smiled and patted Yelingling's hair. He fed her a rejuvenation pill and then turned to Xiao Wu, who was blinking wildly as if embarrassed. Lin Chuan, help me, she squealed, holding out her strangely discolored right hand. You knew they looked nasty and still touched them? He said, half exasperated, half amused. Well, you did set an example, Xiao Wu sniffed defensively. Lin Chuan rolled his eyes but placed his hands on her shoulder. He poured life energy through her, and the black-purple corruption peeled away like burning soot. Her right hand reverted to its normal, cute shape. Xiao Wu breathed out and straightened, visibly relieved. Don't be reckless next time, Lin Chuan warned. You can purify them, but don't let them touch you. I wasn't trying to be reckless, Xiao Wu protested, cheeks flushed. They're shameless, and I don't have your level of control. Her face softened. Thanks. Lin Chuan crouched and picked up one of the white cores that the life field had left behind. Wisps of fog clung to it, but he purified it easily. The mist faded until the core was spotless white. He turned it over in his hand, curious. What are those cores for? Xiao Wu asked. I'm not sure, he admitted, but I have a feeling they'll be useful later. Hold on to them for now. There was no proof, only an instinctive certainty. They gathered what they could. Around them, the life field continued to burn away the corruption, and the fallen creatures collapsed into harmless, cleaned cores. The work would be long. The withered area was vast, but for now they had the immediate task done. Yilingling had completed her purification test, Xiao Wu had survived a close call, and Lin Chuan had learned a little more about the strange, plague-like threat that was turning parts of the forest of life into death. Chapter 156, Use Whatever Means Necessary, Tiando City, Shrek Academy. Yu Xiaogong sat by the window, glancing at the sky and sighing every now and then. It's been so long. I don't know how Xiaosan is doing. With Hao Tianmian there, he should be safe. He tried to soothe himself, but the image of Tang Hao's broken arm flashed across his mind and his expression darkened. A sudden knock burst the room open, and Flanders rushed in, excitement on his face. Xiao Gang, come see who's here. Yu Xiaogong turned instinctively toward the doorway. Behind Flanders, Tang San came forward slowly on a crutch. He smiled faintly. Teacher, I'm back. Yu Xiaogong leapt up so abruptly the chair nearly toppled. He stared, stunned. Tang San's sleeves and pant legs were empty. His hands and feet were gone, and he steadied himself with a crutch. Teacher, what happened to your hands and legs? Yu Xiaogong moved forward and gripped Tang San's empty sleeve, his body trembling. How had his bright, proud disciple come to this? An oppressive silence fell until Flanders cut in. Don't block the doorway. If there's something to say it inside. Yu Xiaogong swallowed, took a breath, and guided Tang San into the room. Flanders closed the door behind them. Xiao San, tell us what happened after the game ended. Tang San inhaled, bracing himself, and began to recount the ordeal. After the match, my father and I were hunted down. As he spoke, Yu Xiaogong and Flanders listened, horror growing on their faces. When Tang San finished and mentioned Tang Hao's death, both men's eyes widened. Even His Majesty Hao Qian, Flanders whispered, voice hollow. Tang San's face remained expressionless, but his voice was cold and steady. Lin Chuan killed my father and severed my limbs. I will avenge him. I won't waste my life as someone's son for nothing." Flanders and Yu Xiaogong exchanged looks that conveyed everything neither wanted to say. "If that's what you want, Xiao-san, then be careful," Flanders said. "Don't be blinded by hatred." "I understand." Tang San's eyes grew hard. He reached out and a battered clear sky hammer materialized in his palm. "My clear sky hammer is damaged like this. Can you repair it?" Yu Xiaogong hesitated. He had read many ancient texts collected at the Wuhun Palace, but records on restoring damaged martial spirits were scarce. Martial souls were complex. To understand and repair them required knowledge that few possessed. Still, he couldn't show helplessness to his disciple. He thought quickly, searching for an answer. "Martial souls are incredibly intricate," he said finally. "It's difficult to repair them directly. However, some martial souls can evolve when acted on by external forces. If we can figure out what caused that evolution, like the reason Poison Douluo's soul evolved, maybe we could apply a similar method to restore your clear sky hammer." Tang San's expression hardened. "So you can't promise anything?" "I can't promise," Yu Xiaogong admitted, "but it's a lead. The problem is, the one who might know about those reasons, Du Bo, has been pursuing you. He's hardly likely to hand over such secrets to you willingly." "I know," Tang San said, "but someone has to find out." Yu Xiaogong hesitated, then nodded. "Leave it to me. I'll investigate." He made the decision quickly. As a member of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect and son of the sect leader, he had both the connections and the duty. He had left his family once because of pride, but now he would go back for his disciple. Tang San's voice softened, faintly moved. "Teacher, you're my disciple," Yu Xiaogong said. "I can't just sit by. That said, it might take time. Logically, if we can replenish the original source, the martial soul could recover, but I don't have any confirmed methods." Flanders added gently, "Xiao-san, for now you should stay at the academy. We'll work on this." "No," Tang San shook his head. "I'm going to the Killing City to train." Yu Xiaogong's face went pale. "Why there?" "My father cultivated the murderous aura he used there," Tang San explained. "That kind of training and actual life-or-death combat can't be replicated elsewhere. I need it. If I don't get stronger fast, I'll never catch Lin Chuan and avenge my father." Yu Xiaogong's worry deepened. "The Killing City is full of vicious people. It's not like a death battle in the Great Soul Fighting Arena. There they truly do whatever it takes to survive. Very few get out alive." Tang San's gaze didn't waver. "I know the risks, but I have to go. Besides, I have a concealed weapon for self-defense. I can protect myself." Flanders and Yu Xiaogong glanced at each other, then after a moment, accepted his determination. "When are you leaving?" Flanders asked softly. "Now." Tang San's reply was immediate. They couldn't persuade him otherwise. Yu Xiaogong laid out everything he knew about the Killing City, warning him one more time. Half an hour later, Tang San left alone. Yu Xiaogong and Flanders stood at the academy gate for a long time, watching him go. "Fland," Yu Xiaogong finally said, voice tight, "do you think he'll get out of the Killing City alive?" Flanders forced a smile and patted his friend's shoulder. "Don't give up hope. Xiao-san is clever and resourceful. He has uncommon abilities. We have to believe in him." Yu Xiaogong nodded, bolstered by that faith. "I'm going back to the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus sect. I'll return within 2 months at most. Leave the students under your care." "Do you want Erlongmei to go with you?" Flanders asked. Yu Xiaogong shook his head. "No, let Erlongmei stay here." He left quickly after that, determined. Tang San followed the crowd out of Tiando City, and using the map Tang Xiao had left him, set off alone toward the Killing City. Tang San's reasons were twofold. He needed to cultivate murderous aura, yes, but he also needed to quickly increase his soul power. When he had hunted the 1,000-year-old man-faced demon spider in the Stardew Forest, he'd acquired the 8 spider spears with attached soul bones. They had enhanced his body and released a deadly toxin. Once fused to his body, they had evolved a devouring ability, able to consume the soul power and life essence of others. He had experimented on soul beasts before, and found the growth in soul power addictive, the very reason he had broken through to the 4th ring before the elite competition. Now, after his father's death and the loss of his limbs, he had no reservations. If devouring powerful soul masters in the killing city would make him strong enough to exact revenge, he would do it. He told himself it was also a way to prevent those evil people from harming others. Even if his clear sky hammer could not be repaired, he could still feed his soul power directly through the devouring ability. With relentless training, the Xuantian technique, and his concealed weapons, Tang San believed he could become unstoppable. He vowed quietly, "Wait, Lin Chuan and the Wuhun Palace. When I come out of the killing city, I will deal with each of you." Unknown Plain, Forest of Life. After purifying 2 fallen creatures with Ye Lingling, Lin Chuan sneezed repeatedly. "Who's talking about me behind my back?" he muttered, rubbing his nose. He didn't worry about such trifles. His focus was on the task. The green light of purification spread across the forest as Ye Lingling's control of life energy grew ever more proficient. The life god test was brutal but efficient, forcing inheritors to master life power quickly. Once a soul power reached level 100, they would inherit the throne. The method pushed candidates hard and often produced a god whose combat skills were initially lacking, but longevity gave them time to grow. "Xiao Chuan, stop dazing. There's a large area we haven't cleaned yet," Xiao Wu warned. "Coming." Lin Chuan snapped out of his thoughts, and the 3 continued their sweep. They purified fallen creatures one after another, and the cores they collected piled up in their soul storage like a small hill. Under Lin Chuan's strong mental control, almost nothing slipped past them. They reached the final area. An indescribable presence hit them. Cold, malignant, chaotic, every negative descriptor applied. "Be careful, there's something big ahead," Lin Chuan said, moving to the front to lead. Xiao Wu's martial spirit snapped into place. Ye Lingling held the life spirit Tang in both hands, its green light already flowing into the bodies of the creatures they'd purified. At the forest's edge, a monstrous form came into view. A massive, black, pulsating mass clung to the ground like a grotesque heart. It throbbed rhythmically, flashing dark purple light with every contraction. "This looks like an egg," Lin Chuan said, narrowing his eyes, "and it's attached to something beneath the ground." The foreboding breath that chilled them didn't come from the mass itself, but from below it. "Xiao Chuan, what do we do?" Xiao Wu asked, a prickle across her scalp. "Let Lingling try first," Lin Chuan decided. Ye Lingling raised the life spirit Tang. A brilliant green light surged out and enveloped the black mass. The instant it made contact, the mass reacted, spewing black and purple energy. The life field was severed, and the ground convulsed. With a violent contraction, countless twisted limbs erupted from the earth, and waves of fallen creatures crawled out, encircling Lin Chuan and his companions in mere breaths. Lin Chuan's jaw tightened. "They're trying to trap us," he whispered, but his eyes remained on the black mass in the center. The real battle, he knew, would be dealing with that egg-like horror. If they could destroy it, perhaps this onslaught would end, and Ye Lingling's 3rd test might finally be completed. Chapter 157, Breakthroughs. There are too many of them. Xiao Wu's scalp prickled as she took in the sea of strange, densely packed creatures. They crawled and clustered like a living carpet around them. "They're just minions, Lingling." Lin Chuan murmured and shifted back to stand beside Ye Lingling, taking the girl's pale, delicate hands in his. "Let's begin." The life spirit talisman pulsed again. Lin Chuan poured his will into the mystery of life, and the 2 disparate life energies fused and spread outward at frightening speed. In an instant, the crawling fallen creatures that had been preparing to attack were engulfed by the life field. The sweeping vitality purified them before they could make a move. One moment animated, the next they evaporated under the rush of living power. Under Lin Chuan's control, the life field surged toward the huge black mass ahead. The thing responded with a violent hiss of black and purple energy, attempting to fend them off, but it had no answer to the combined life force. The dark beam collapsed at the first touch and posed almost no resistance. Then, suddenly, the black orb swelled monstrously. In minutes, it had grown to the size of a mountain, disgorging clouds of black and purple fog in all directions. "Still want to resist? Fine. I'll send you on your way." Lin Chuan drew the Luoxia bow. Life energy coalesced on the string and shaped itself into a brilliant green arrow. He loosed dozens at once. Each arrow split in midair until hundreds, then thousands, rained down on the black mass. Wind blades of life lanced through it, green light burning and purifying the taint within. A roar rolled through the smoke and dust. Lingling now! While the life arrows shredded the creature, the life field closed around it. It writhed, but its structure, this warped, unknown flesh, began to dissolve visibly. After roughly an hour, the gigantic, transformed bulwark was gone. Only a little core, the size of a human head, hovered in the air, shaking as if making one last stand. Under sustained purification, that dark core finally faded to nothing. Lin Chuan reached out and caught the residue as it turned white, letting out a long breath. Where the great body had been, a hole now gaped, roughly the width of an adult's arm. Black and purple beams spurted from within it like sinister veins, strobing across the cave. Lin Chuan stepped closer and peered into the opening. The light streaming from inside veiled everything. When he pushed his mental senses inward, they were blocked 10 feet in, and what little of his mind did penetrate was sullied by pollution. He drew back and had to purge his consciousness with the mystery of life. "This is worrying," he said. "All of those fallen creatures, those egg-like things, came from this place." A gentle, omnipresent voice filled their heads. "All fallen creatures successfully purified. Test passed. The third trial of the 9 tests of life is complete. Evaluation, excellent. Rewards, soul power increased by 2 levels. All soul rings aged by 1,500 years. Life affinity increased by 15%. Current affinity level, 25%. A green light marked Ye Lingling's forehead and then poured over her. The ritual took half an hour. When the light subsided, Ye Lingling's aura had shifted. Her soul power had reached level 60. Different, smaller confirmations echoed in Lin Chuan and Xiao Wu's minds. Assisted the inheritor of the god of life. Reward, soul power plus 2 levels. Assisted the inheritor of the god of life. Reward, soul power plus 1 level with an additional 2-level bonus. Vitality from the world itself flowed into their bodies. When it finished, Lin Chuan realized he'd broken through. His soul power had officially surpassed level 80. Xiao Wu, too, had crossed the threshold. She was now at level 50. A slender green bead shot from the Temple of Gods into Xiao Wu's hands. "What is this?" she asked. "A god-given soul ring," Lin Chuan answered. "It can grant you soul rings and soul skills without hunting soul beasts. I don't recommend using it now. It's better saved. You can form soul rings yourself, and the bead will be more useful later when you can tackle higher year rings." "That makes sense. I'll keep it." Xiao Wu nodded and slipped the green bead into her pocket. "You're probably at a bottleneck now, Lingling," Lin Chuan said, looking at Ye Lingling. Ye Lingling's expression was mild. "My soul power reached level 60. Lin Chuan clicked his tongue. "It's a shame. I shouldn't have suggested using that God-given ring during the 9th life test. Too wasteful in hindsight." He felt some regret. He should have warned her earlier, but there was consolation. With every completed trial, Ye Lingling's soul rings aged. Even her first soul ring was close to 3,500 years old now. At this rate, the deep year rings she'd eventually have would be well on their way. Reaching rings of several 100,000 years someday seemed feasible. "Let's wrap up the divine trials for now and head back to Star Doe Forest to hunt for soul rings," Lin Chuan proposed. Ye Lingling had no objection. At the suggestion, Xiao Wu perked up. "What? We're going out again?" Lin Chuan met her gaze. "You should come with us. We might run into the Azure Bull Python or the Titan Giant Ape. We can't afford another nasty fight if we're separated." "Then I'm coming," Xiao Wu said without hesitation. "But first, there's that hole," Lin Chuan added. "We need to deal with it, at least suppress it." He stretched out his hand and let the mystery of life flood into the cave. The black-purple beam dimmed, as if struck by a natural enemy. The taint inside recoiled. Lin Chuan continued to pour energy in until finally the beams thinned and dissipated. The cave entrance darkened to an ordinary black, the dangerous glow snuffed out, for now. "That should hold it for a while," he said, though his voice carried doubt. There was no guarantee the taint wouldn't return. This corruption didn't feel native to their plane. It might be a breach to somewhere else he wasn't prepared to face alone. "Let's go," he decided. "Get what we need in Stardew Forest, and come back early if anything changes. We don't want this place to drag us into deeper trouble." Chapter 158. Don't let others get away with it. When the light shimmered, Lin Chuan and the others vanished into the forest. The lake water surged around them from every direction, and a blue radiance burst from Lin Chuan's body, instantly isolating the flow. We're back, he thought, glancing at the familiar underwater groves, the life lake again. Humans, die! A sudden surge of spirit power roiled the surface. A thick, azure bull python tail braided through the water and lunged straight for Lin Chuan's position. Da Ming, stop! Xiao Wu stepped in front of him before he could move. At the sight of her, the great python, Tianqing Nubo, known to the others as Da Ming, froze and halted its attack, a pleased expression softening its massive face. Sister Xiao Wu, are you all right? Of course I'm fine. Xiao Wu blinked and gave the python a strange look. She hadn't gone long unnoticed. The titan ape on the shore, Ming, craned his massive head toward them, and eyes huge, asked in a worried rumble, Sister Xiao Wu, where have you been this past year? I thought. He broke off, shooting a look at Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling. The meaning was clear, even unspoken. Xiao Wu rolled her eyes. De Ming, I've told you 100 times. Xiao Chuan is my friend. Yes, he's awkward sometimes and has a rough streak, but he's a good person. Stop being so touchy. Lin Chuan could only stare inwardly. Great, such an inflated opinion of him. Xiao Wu then related what had happened over the past year, how she had gone to the god's inheritance place, completed trials, and received rewards. When she mentioned completing a test and needing to improve her soul ring, the python's eyes widened. You completed a trial? Not finished, she corrected. I just passed the second test and hit a bottleneck. I need to break through my soul ring, so I came out for a while. You hunted soul beasts to feed? The python's face darkened, its eyes flashing. It looked toward Lin Chuan with hostility. Do you want me to stop you? Lin Chuan said, smiling faintly. He flexed and deliberately released his aura. The pressure he radiated felt like a mountain. The python's huge body stiffened. Disbelief flickered across its snout. Contra? How? You were a soul emperor a year ago. So you want to fight? Lin Chuan's tone went cold. I don't care for your soul ring or your soul bones, but if you insist on sending them to me, I'll accept. Fear flitted through the python's eyes. It remembered the authority it once held, but Lin Chuan's strength had clearly increased since. The aura alone was terrifying now. The python held back its words, not entirely out of cowardice. It could probably still survive a fight with the titan ape's help, but it became careful. Sensing the tension, Xiao Wu cut in. Okay, let's go up. They surfaced, 3 humans and 1 massive python emerging from the life lake. Sister Xiao Wu, the titan ape boomed, a hill of a figure blotting the sunlight as he approached. Xiao Wu smiled and leapt down from the python's head to greet the ape with animated affection. Lin Chuan didn't linger for their reunion. Tianqing Nubo, where did you and the titan ape push that dark demon evil god tiger to? You want to hunt it? The python's eyes flashed with a hint of fear. He and the titan ape had fought the dark demon tiger together, driving it out of the Star Doe forest after several battles, but they hadn't been able to kill it. Still, Lin Chuan's interest didn't bother the python. Such a creature, which survives by devouring soul beasts and soul masters, was a common enemy to other soul beasts. It fled south, Tianqing Nubo said after a moment. We drove it out and it went that way. You can search that direction. Thanks. Lin Chuan didn't say more. Lingling, let's go. As Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling turned to leave, the python still looked confused. Xiao Wu took the chance to beam. See, Da Ming? I told you Xiao Chuan's all right. He's different from other humans. Don't hate him. Maybe, the python hummed, trying to sound nonchalant but still wary toward humans. Xiao Wu shrugged and settled back down. I'm going to condense my soul rings now. Da Ming, Ming, watch my place. The 2 ancient beasts nodded. The life lake was their territory. Few dared intrude. Xiao Wu closed her eyes, sat cross-legged, fingers forming a complex mudra. She began to chant in the old tongue. Her eyes reddened as 2 black soul rings silently spiraled into being around her. Behind her, a massive white shadow took shape, her martial spirit, its red light deep and blood-like. The titan ape and the azure python stood guard at a respectful distance, eyes gleaming with desire as they watched her condense. Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling left the lake and wandered through the mixed forest. A soul emperor's endurance could normally span 15 to 20,000 years. Ye Lingling had also condensed life energy, raising her range. After 5 days of searching, they found a suitable soul beast, a begonia flower about 25,000 years old. Perhaps sensing Ye Lingling's rich life energy, it offered no resistance and willingly sacrificed itself in a ritual of binding. The flower transformed into Ye Lingling's sixth soul ring. That begonia was willing to sacrifice itself under 100,000 years? It's almost intelligent, Lin Chuan said, surprised but pleased. Brother Chuan, a soul bone dropped. Ye Lingling held a small skull in her hand, astonished. Lucky, Lin Chuan thought. She absorbed the begonia skull, officially breaking through to Soul Emperor. Her soul power jumped to level 63. We should go find the dark demon evil god tiger now, he said. Guided by Tianqing Nubo's directions, they headed south, never releasing their mental vigilance. The dark demon tiger's cultivation was over 60,000 years. As a top-tier soul beast, it could rival a 100,000-year creature. Ordinary soul masters were no match for it. Among the soul rings Lin Chuan had absorbed was a top-tier beast, the dark gold terrorclaw bear, but it paled compared with this tiger. Still, such a huge creature would leave traces. He could sense it. 10 days of searching, stops and starts, the life domain expanding under their feet as plants became Lin Chuan's eyes. Then a fluctuation in the air. Brother Chuan, Ye Lingling whispered. Lin Chuan's lips curved. Found it. Let's hurry. He grabbed Ye Lingling's waist and ran. As they drew near, domain power thickened, the barely hidden aura of darkness and malice that only a top-tier, 100,000-year beast could command. This had to be the dark demon evil god tiger. They arrived above a valley that swallowed light. Outside it was bright, but inside an unnatural darkness lay like a void. The air was heavy and oppressive, every living thing in the shade showing the valley's corruption. What a strange place, Ye Lingling murmured. Stay behind me, Lin Chuan said. This beast has tricks. She nodded obediently. They slipped into the gloom. Within the reach of Lin Chuan's perception, a massive tiger lay sleeping in a cave, black as a starless night. If he hadn't locked onto its aura, he might have missed it in the darkness. The tiger was over 8 meters long, muscles bulging, probably weighing several tons. A black wand marked its forehead like a crown. Its tail was peculiar, segmented into countless joints, ending in a hooked barb that glinted with a dark light. Lin Chuan's palms glowed. The Luoxia bow materialized in his hands. He notched an arrow, silent as breath, ready to strike. The moment he released, the dark demon tiger's eyes snapped open. It rose with a low, feral roar. The cave exploded outward as the ground collapsed. The black beast surged free, crimson eyes burning. Some of its fur was still singed. Dark blood oozed where it had been wounded. You woke up? I underestimated you, it snarled. The tiger's wind affinity allowed it to sense changes through the air. It roared, and a malevolent dark aura blasted outward at wind speed. The sky over the valley blackened, winds clawed, dark clouds gathered, lightning forked. A bolt of black thunder slammed toward Lin Chuan. Interesting, Lin Chuan said, dodging with calm precision. His fingers flicked, and a volley of flaming arrows erupted. The tiger had already tasted his attack, and no longer took him lightly. Its hooked tail whipped in a violent arc, conjuring a gray airflow shield that surged to thicken the evil aura around it. The gray light flowed across its body like armor. Boom, the arrows struck in succession. The force shattered the tiger's protection. The recoil threw the beast across the valley. It tumbled, shaking, but rose with only minor injury. The dark demon tiger's evil guard was stronger than Lin Chuan had initially thought. Warm-up's over. Die, Lin Chuan declared. He fired again. This time the arrow blazed with twin elements. Brilliant fire and water spiraled together around the golden shaft. The tiger sensed death and attacked with everything it had. Dozens of black and red light blades tore through the air. The tiger opened its jaws and condensed a great ball of gray energy, which it flung forward. Pure, desperate power. Fire and water, pierce the sky, Lin Chuan cried. The arrow raced straight, outrunning the flying blades and the gray thunderball. Its force shattered them all. The impact was cataclysmic. Shockwaves shredded plants and blasted rock. The tiger's thunderball disintegrated. The golden arrow slammed into the beast's chest and continued on, cutting clean through. The mountain behind ruptured, and a huge cavern gaped open. The dark demon tiger was bisected. Limbs and flesh separated, its breath faltered. It tried to rise, eyes burning with fierce refusal. Gray light snaked around its broken hind legs as the tail summoned a last, vicious strike. "You want to drag me into death with you?" Lin Chuan said, but he didn't give the tiger another chance. He released another arrow that punched straight into the mark on its forehead. The tail stilled and collapsed. The creature made a last, strangled sound. Then a ring of black soul rings bloomed around its vanishing form and dissolved into nothing. The dark clouds broke. Sunshine pierced back into the valley, life returning as if after a clearing storm. As the beast's essence dispersed, a strange bead, suffused with blue-green light, burst from its remains and flew out. "Don't let it get away!" Lin Chuan moved in a flash, catching the bead with one hand. It wriggled and struggled, but was suppressed with the back of his hand. Calmly, he deposited it into his storage soul guide. This was his trophy, and he wouldn't let anyone else claim it. Chapter 159, Desperate Situation of Reincarnation. Lin Chuan didn't give the dark demon evil tiger a chance to use the life and death arena. Even though he'd mastered 3 mysteries and had a good chance of blocking the tiger's soul techniques, it wasn't worth risking. One couldn't rely on probabilities in a fight for one's life. "You think Zhou Weiqing in the other plane is in danger now?" the tiger had earlier wondered. Its natal pill bead had been intercepted by Lin Chuan and never reached the sky bead transformation plane. If the tiger's plan failed, Zhou Weiqing might never rise. He might not even survive. Lin Chuan only smiled and shrugged. "What does that have to do with me?" He wasn't close to Zhou Weiqing. There was no reason to sacrifice his own interests for a stranger. Then he turned to Ye Lingling. "Lingling, I'm going to absorb the soul ring now. Keep watch for me." Ye Lingling nodded softly. "Brother Chuan, I'll be on guard." He spread his mental power and swept the valley once more to make sure there were no lingering threats. Satisfied, he sat cross-legged. He laid the Luoxia bow horizontally before him, and the weapon shone faintly. The dark black soul ring, still hanging on the tiger, dissolved into a ribbon of light, fell toward the bow, and shrank as it approached. At the same time, a knife-cold wind of hostile energy pierced Lin Chuan, striking every part of him. The tiger's jealous, malevolent breath clawed at him from inside. Waves of mental force tried to batter his mind. Lin Chuan frowned and snorted, not to be careless. He pressed into meditation, meeting the onslaught head-on. The corrupting energy kept trying to erode him, but he held steady. A quiet system notification flickered through his perception. "You have meditated seriously and gained a great deal. Soul power increased, physique significantly strengthened, mental power slightly improved. Tianshui meditation proficiency +1. Guidance technique, 9-fold chaotic source proficiency +1. He stood like a pillar and let the evil breath keep washing over him. "Not enough," he murmured. Once he was certain the mental shock posed no threat, Lin Chuan reached out and the tiger's natal pill bead suddenly materialized in his palm. The Luoxia bow hummed as if tugged by a hidden force. Dark light danced along its limbs. The bead lifted, and thin wisps of gray vapor were drawn from it into the bow at a furious rate. The bead trembled as if threatened. Lin Chuan unleashed a burst of life force that pinned the bead in place. No matter how it struggled, it could not escape. The absorption took nearly 2 hours. Under the bow's pull, the pill bead's energy was drained almost completely. Its color dimmed until it was nearly dead. Then, with a soft buzz, the pill bead slid into the bow. The black soul ring coating the bow loosened, and a blood-red radiance bled into it. The dark light faded and was replaced by that deep red. 100,000-year soul ring? Yi Lingling, still on guard at his side, stared in astonishment. The dark demon evil tiger had only about 60,000 years of cultivation. How could this be? She couldn't figure it out, but there was no doubt it was excellent news for Lin Chuan. 100,000-year soul ring came with 2 soul skills. With a surge of soul power, the ring's new age solidified and merged into the Luoxia bow. Lin Chuan exhaled slowly and opened his eyes. This was unexpected. Choosing to keep the natal pill bead had been the right call. Not only had the soul ring been upgraded from roughly 60,000 to a full 100,000 years under the pill bead's influence, but only half the bead's energy went into the ring. The other half had reinforced Lin Chuan himself. His physical strength had improved noticeably, his mental power had increased, and his soul power now stood at level 86. It felt like riding a rocket. He concentrated and examined the bow's feedback. There were indeed 2 soul skills transferred from the dark demon evil tiger. The first took a name reminiscent of a video game move he once knew: reincarnation, desperate situation. Its effect, however, was far more terrifying. By emitting a beam of light, the user and the enemy were banished into a separate space to fight a life-and-death duel. Within that field, the enemy would be suppressed. If the user killed the opponent there, the dead target's soul could be devoured. The attacker would permanently absorb part of the victim's cultivation and even some of their abilities. In short, it allowed one to consume an enemy's cultivation and retain it forever. Lin Chuan breathed in sharply. Is this soul-devouring? He swallowed, thinking of darker euphemisms. This really was like eating someone's cultivation. Still, he wasn't morally troubled. The skill didn't force him to literally consume flesh, it absorbed cultivation. And these foes were enemies by choice. Why be courteous? Beaming divine art and Tiantan magic art in other traditions had similar effects. The second skill was the evil god guardian the tiger had once used, a protective shield that didn't impede movement and was very difficult to break. For attacks from ordinary titled Douluo, it should provide solid defense. Great gains, Lin Chuan said, actually smiling. He was pleased with both new soul skills, but they were incidental to his true goal. He had hunted the dark demon evil tiger primarily to accelerate his comprehension of the laws. A status panel visible only to him glowed in his mind as he reviewed his condition. Name: Lin Chuan. Soul power: level 86, 8-ring soul duo. Blessing: heaven rewards. Hard work: blessing from the will of the blue star. 1 point of effort yields 1 point of harvest. Skills: Tianshui meditation technique LV8. Guidance technique, 9-fold chaotic source, level 4. Skill levels: archery, harmony between man and nature; gun technique, harmony between man and nature; sword technique, harmony between man and nature; boxing technique, subtle; body technique, harmony between man and nature. Miscellaneous studies: alchemy technique, level 4; weapon refining technique. Other techniques: observation hockey, level 6; thunderblade, level 4; body technique, liu guang, level 4; water and fire series, soul skills: explosive arrow L5, ice arrow L5, swift wind arrow rain L5, thunder arrow L5, golden arrow L4, soul destroying arrow L4, martial soul true body, reincarnation, desperate situation, evil god guardian enlightenment level, mystery of life first level, mystery of water of all things first level, mystery of fire of all things first level. Looking at the panel only he could see, Lin Chuan's smile grew broader. The higher his soul power rose, the easier it would be to keep improving it further. Next, he would have to accelerate his comprehension of the laws and strive to break through the next mystery as soon as possible. He murmured the plan under his breath, and then suddenly paused. Huh? Lin Chuan had just let out a breath when a new wave of energy washed over him. He swiveled toward the corpse of the dark demon evil god tiger. The feeling had come from it. Another surprise, he muttered. He crouched by the carcass, eyes bright. Calling Ye Ying's twin swords to his hands, he cut the beast open. A pair of wings fell free, haloed in 3 colors and sheathed in soul bone, the wings of the evil god. When a white tiger is possessed by that evil god, its light turns to darkness and black wings of corruption grow in its place. These wings held the 3 powers the tiger had controlled: wind, thunder, and a corruption evolved from darkness. Today is definitely my lucky day. Not only had he improved from the fight, but he'd found external soul bones, wings containing wind and thunder power that could be used with a simple sacrifice. They would increase his speed and, more importantly, grant him flight. Space and time powers would of course outrank wind and thunder, but these wings were still a valuable prize. He slid the evil god wings into his storage soul guide, planning to return to the Ice and Fire Shrine later and refine them together with the blue-silver emperor's right leg bone. As soon as he took the wings, the tiger's corpse dissolved into gray smoke and vanished, the last of its value entirely extracted. With its death, the valley's darkness and evil aura lifted, the place returned to its normal state. Lingling, let's go, he said. Their soul-hunting expedition had ended perfectly. After a short rest, the 2 of them left the valley and made their way back to the Star Forest. The route home was easier this time, and they reached the Lake of Life within a few days. "You're back!" Xiao Wu greeted them with a smile as soon as she saw them. The azure bull python and the titan giant ape arrived as well, but when they caught the lingering oppressive aura around Lin Chuan, both ancient soul beasts, 200,000 years old, looked horrified. "You carry the scent of that dark tiger," the python hissed. "Human, did you really kill it?" Lin Chuan glanced casually at the python and didn't offer details. He looked to Xiao Wu. "Lingling and I are going back to the Temple of Life to continue the exams. Will you come with us or stay?" "I've rested long enough. I'll come," Xiao Wu said. She'd seen what the exams could bring and wasn't going to miss her chance. They left without further argument. The python and the ape exchanged worried looks. Even so, they let the three go. "Brother, can we really trust those humans?" the titan ape asked in a buzzing voice. The python flicked its massive head. "I don't know. That stupid tiger we couldn't kill together. He killed it. That proves he can kill us if he wants to. I don't like it, but we can't do anything about it now. We'll just have to hope he acts like Xiao Wu says," the titan ape added stubbornly. "No matter what, I won't let humans hurt Sister Xiao Wu." "We won't let her be harmed," the python agreed. When they cleared their minds, Lin Chuan and the others found themselves back on the plain where the Temple of Life stood, and an unaccountable familiarity settled in their chests. "Lingling, your fourth test should be starting, right?" Lin Chuan asked. Lingling nodded. "Yes, I have to fill the plain breach, purify the withered forest, and restore the entire forest of life." "That's a heavy task, but expected," he said. His own third test still required him to assist a life inheritor. "Where are you headed, Xiao Wu?" "To Storm Canyon. I have to carry a piece of sunken wood into the canyon and keep it from being blown out for 4 hours at a time for a whole year," she explained dryly. "That adds up to 1,460 hours total. Fail that, and I fail the test." They each took their separate paths. Xiao Wu departed for the canyon. Lin Chuan stayed with Ye Lingling in the life forest, helping to purge the black and purple corruption. Mastery of life energy wasn't hard for them to learn, but the affected area was broad, and Lin Chuan pitched in. As he used his mystery of life to purify the land, he grew a little in understanding and deepened his connection to life power. His assistance didn't interfere with Ye Lingling's progress. It accelerated it. Whenever she hit a bottleneck, Lin Chuan guided her, and her perception of life energy widened rapidly. The forest responded. Shoots pushed up from the ground, dead trunks greened, and the wood that had withered were restored to lush life. Leaves shimmered with emerald light as the life force in the air grew stronger. Ye Lingling absorbed the light and gasped. "Brother Chuan, my soul power is improving. My life energy is surging." Lin Chuan frowned with a hint of envy. "Is there some hidden bonus? Why didn't I get any?" In the spirit world, the goddess of life watched with a soft smile. "What a greedy little thing," she murmured. "He's taken so much and still wants more. He doesn't even share." She had overseen everything that happened around the temple and felt a new respect and a touch of fear at Lin Chuan's growth. If other gods learned of him, they might take notice. She sighed to herself. Xiao Zi, the current heir, didn't want to step down, or else Lin Chuan might have been the obvious successor. For now, she remained silent, only watching. 2 months passed. Every corner revived under the work of life energy, and Ye Lingling stood before the last area with a relieved smile. Soul power had risen 2 levels, and her command of life energy far surpassed where she'd been 2 months ago. Only one thing remained, a cave that had been partially purified. Wisps of black and purple fog still leaked from it, a sign that life energy alone only treated the symptoms. They needed to seal the plain breach itself. "I don't know what to use to fill it," Ye Lingling said softly. Lin Chuan thought for a moment, then brightened. He held out an empty palm and a white stone appeared there. "This is the core of the fallen creatures." "It should work," Ye Lingling said. "I don't know its structure, but it's a natural fit for sealing a plain passage. We can't use stones from the Temple of Life." A rumble of thunder rolled across the sky. Lin Chuan chuckled nervously. "I was only joking about taking anything from the temple, never mind." They both frowned. If the cores were contaminated, they could turn back into fallen creatures. Still, they had dozens of cores they'd collected while purifying the beasts. Lin Chuan poured life force into a core. The white stone glowed green and began drawing in energy from the surrounding nature, replenishing itself. He held the glowing core over the breach. The black-purple beam dimmed visibly, and the turquoise halo faded accordingly, though it soon rebuilt itself. One core wasn't enough. Lin Chuan spread his palms and countless white cores appeared on the ground. Together, he and Ye Lingling infused life force into each one. Slowly, the breach's corruption was suppressed, but even the largest core still fell short. Lin Chuan spat a gout of golden flame that wrapped around the largest core. He tossed the smaller cores into the fire. His mental power guided the flames until the stones melted and fused, not destroyed, forming a single massive core sized to fit the channel. He set the new core into the breach and looked at Ye Lingling. "Help me activate it with life force." She joined her hand to his, a green sphere of life energy coalescing between them and sinking into the core. Lin Chuan then took out a seed and threw it above the core. Under the catalyzing power of life, the seed merged into the stone and sprouted at once, shooting skyward and forming a towering tree. Its trunk encased the core, and its roots sank deep, anchoring and sealing the plain passage. "That should do it," Lin Chuan said. As the last of the corruption vanished, two rays of light flared from the brows of both of them. Chapter 161, Coming from Behind, the second level. A mark on his forehead flashed, and a low voice echoed in Lin Chuan's mind. "Assist the Life Inheritor to complete the assessment. After passing the test's third stage, you will be rewarded with 2 levels of soul power." That familiar surge spread through his body. The majestic vitality of heaven and earth poured in, and his soul power jumped again, from the 86th level to the 88th. The fullness of it was intoxicating. Have the rewards been increased, or is it because my strength has grown? Lin Chuan muttered. Whatever the reason, the gain was enormous. At the same time, the mark on Ye Lingling's brow shone. Her soft voice sounded deep in her soul. Purify the forest of life together with your companion, seal the planar passage, and master the use of the life power. After completing the 4th test, you will be rewarded with 2 levels of soul power, a 3,000-year boost to all soul ring cultivation, and a 10% increase in life affinity, bringing your overall life affinity to 35%. A wash of green light strengthened Ye Lingling's aura. Her soul power reached level 67. "Another test finished," she said. "If we keep this pace, we could finish all the tests in under 2 years and return to Snowfield City. I wonder how the others are doing." Lin Chuan sat back against a tree, nostalgia in his eyes. "I miss everyone." Hearing that, Ye Lingling's expression softened. By her count, it had been nearly a year and a half since he'd left Snowfield City, long enough to stir homesickness. "How about we head back to Snowfield City before the 5th test?" she asked. Lin Chuan raised a brow and suggested softly, "Let's go back after the next assessment. We'll go find Yanzi first, then return to Snowfield City together." He didn't know how the territory had changed in his absence, but with Poison Douluo in charge, nothing too catastrophic was likely. After a day's rest, the next test appeared in their minds. Hurricane body training, same as Xiao Wu's. This time the training changed. Lin Chuan would need to endure 6 hours a day inside the canyon. Ye Lingling, 8. Body training couldn't be shortcut. Support was all they could offer each other. "Let's go, Lingling. Let's check out Storm Canyon first," Lin Chuan said. Following the guidance embedded between their brows, Lin Chuan and Ye Lingling left the forest of life. The lush woods thinned, and the land turned into a desolate gobi. Wind howled, whipping dust into the sky. Without a soul barrier, they wouldn't even be able to open their eyes. Fortunately, the barrier held. "It should be ahead," Lin Chuan said, sensing. He picked up Xiao Wu's aura and the violent turbulence of the canyon. That must be Storm Canyon. As they approached, something abruptly shot out of the canyon. Lin Chuan reached instinctively and felt a body in his arms, then realized it was Xiao Wu. She looked pitiful. The lively youth he knew was bruised, her clothing shredded and soaked with blood. She tried to sit up but flinched in pain. "Xiao Chuan, why are you here?" Xiao Wu gasped, surprised but relieved. Ye Lingling knelt to help, and with life Lingtang, healed Xiao Wu's wounds in 2 breaths. "Thank you, Lingling," Xiao Wu said earnestly. "What happened to you?" Lin Chuan demanded. Xiaowu puffed out her cheeks, embarrassed and angry at once. It wasn't just the hurricane body training. I thought it would be a normal trial, but I didn't expect. Her voice dropped and fear flickered across her face. You should see it for yourself. Lin Chuan already had a rough idea. Together with Xiaowu, they reached the canyon's mouth. The gorge stretched on without visible end, its rock walls rising 100 feet or more. An invisible hurricane screamed through the chasm. It sounded like blades cutting the void, chilling the blood. It's weird, Xiaowu said, pointing up. The winds form blade-like currents. Sometimes thunder falls from the clouds above. A thunderhead hovered over the rift, and occasionally lightning cracked down. No wonder Xiaowu had been so beaten. Entering that canyon was like stepping into a meat grinder. A weak soul master wouldn't last a moment. The wind suddenly lashed, carving a deep gouge into the stone. It's terrifying, Lin Chuan said, glancing at Xiaowu. How did you have the courage to go in? She sniffed defiantly. Don't underestimate Sister Xiaowu. I had something to accomplish. And what are you and Lingling doing here? Xiaowu asked. We finished the previous assessment, Lin Chuan explained. Our new test is the same, physical training in Storm Canyon. Really? Then I won't be alone. Xiaowu brightened. We'll talk later. Lingling, rest outside for a bit. Xiao Chuan, let's go in together. Ye Lingling nodded. She didn't look too afraid. By the way, you must carry a piece of sunken wood before entering. Xiaowu pointed to a pile of darkwood stakes at the canyon's edge. Each block was bound with bamboo straps. Lin Chuan stepped forward and lifted one. It's heavy, he said, feeling his hand sink into it. Ye Lingling struggled but took one of the blocks as well. I'm fine, Brother Chuan. It's just weight. I can endure it. Her gaze was steady, resolute. All right, don't overdo it. If you can't hold it, quit. Lin Chuan warned, then led the way into the gorge. The wind hit them like a living thing. Hidden among the hurricane were razor-blade currents that sliced outward. With his mental perception, he could track them, and his body, already tougher than a typical soul master's, and recently strengthened by the dark demon evil god Tiger's natal Danzu, held up better than most. A wind blade struck, tearing a large hole through Lin Chuan's clothing. A thin white line marked his skin, but he wasn't seriously harmed. Is that all? He muttered. More wind blades came in waves, shredding his clothes to rags and scoring his flesh. Blood welled, then the secret of life within him set to work, drawing on the surrounding vitality to repair his wounds. The cycle of damage and healing repeated constantly. Soon his body was dripping with blood, but only his clothing made him look battered. His eyes remained bright. Then lightning struck, unpredictable, far more punishing than the wind blades. It seared through him, numbing every vein and bone. Fresh blood seeped from his skin. Lin Chuan spat a mouthful of blood and laughed, tinged with pain. The scorch marks blackened his flesh, but his life mystery repaired even the charred parts, and new flesh formed where necrotic tissue fell away. Fortunately, the thunder did not strike constantly. Ye Lingling fared worse. Inside the canyon, she could not use soul skills, and could only rely on raw soul power to resist the blades. As an auxiliary soul master, her endurance was limited. If she hadn't progressed through the earlier tests and improved her life control, using that power to nourish and repair herself, she might have been blown apart already. Though agonized, she gritted her teeth and held on. The canyon's hurricane had a strange will of its own. When any of them reached their limit, it would push them out. With life's spirit around, they avoided long-term hidden injuries. Under such brutal training, the three of them steadily grew stronger. At first, they could endure only half an hour. As months passed, Ye Lingling and Xiaowu persevered longer and longer. Once Lin Chuan was sure neither of them was in danger, he felt more at ease. He went to the canyon's center alone, sat cross-legged in the howling wind, and entered Cultivation. The Luoxia bow lay across his thigh, and gusts screamed all around, a harsh but ideal place to study the wind mysteries. At first, comprehension was constantly interrupted by blades and lightning, but gradually he adapted. The wind blade strikes no longer harmed him. They became part of his practice, and his understanding of wind leapt forward. Messages, like a voice from some higher reckoning, seemed to affirm his progress. You have benefited greatly from serious study. Your grasp of the wind mystery has deepened. Time passed. Lin Chuan completed the assessment ahead of schedule, faster even than Xiao Wu, who had started the hurricane body training earlier. During this year of brutal training, Yilingling's body grew far tougher. Without amplification, she was now stronger than many beast soul masters of the same rank. Passing the test was no longer a problem, but Lin Chuan did not immediately leave. He remained meditating amid the gale, calm and centered, a subtle breeze clinging to him. Wind blades tried to strike, but were swept aside as if by invisible hands. Suddenly, an unseen current wrapped around him. When Lin Chuan opened his eyes, a gust erupted from his chest as the center point. In an instant, the violent hurricane receded within several miles, as if a vacuum had formed. A new power thrummed in him. He raised his hand and felt the fingertips curl with concentrated gale. The second level of the wind mystery. I did it! He could hardly contain his satisfaction. After a year of relentless effort, he hadn't just comprehended the wind mystery, he had pushed it to its second level. It was the kind of unexpected, triumphant breakthrough he had never anticipated. The wind, which had only come later in his training, was the first mystery to reach the next stage.